Oh, it's asking me to click a little thing.
Yeah, that's
Hello,
good.
everyone. This is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and today we're here to discuss some of the worst live-action adaptations of manga and or anime of all time, at least in our opinion, from what we've seen. And this discussion is going to be full to the brim, as I say, with dumpster juice. I haven't used that term in a while. So it's going to be pretty painful, but I found two gentlemen that could help us through it. So first we have our good friend who, we're all familiar with, the blissfully evil Corrie. How's it going, Corrie?
Thanks for the plug. I appreciate it. Hi, it's been a while. I think we've been speaking about this podcast for I over probably a year and a bit now, maybe even
Yeah.
longer. It's just one of those things. Somebody decided they had to go make a movie. I don't know who that was. Uh, but yes, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this one, and I'm looking forward to doing the next one, which will be the best adaptations. But unfortunately, there's more bad to talk about than there is good.
I also had with me the blissfully virtuous Ray. How's it going, Ray?
Doing all right. It's honestly been. I've been watching. If I can be, just put this out there before we get into our discussion. I've been watching a lot less movies as when I was active on YouTube. I've been more into gaming recently, so I apologize if my what's the word for it? I'm running out of. I'm forgetting my English even more. My contributions aren't as thoroughly like in depth as it normally would be, but I'm still glad to be part of this conversation.
Nice. So in preparation for this, just to give everybody an idea who's watching, we kind of accumulated a list of a lot of the, adaptations. We're specifically talking about live action adaptations. Most of the time they're adapted directly from the manga, but I do know a few examples where the live action was adapted directly from the anime itself, which is kind of odd. And a few of those, or at least one of those, might be in one of my top 10 in my top 10 list. But yeah, it'll be pretty interesting to see the diversity of films we'll be covering tonight. And we're primarily going to focus on the Japanese side of things, as I know a lot of people immediately kind of think of some of the Hollywood adaptations of manga, specifically some of the bad ones. But I think for most of our lists here, we're going to be excluding those and being more focused on the Japanese side of the industry. And in relation to that, we could just kick this off by discussing our overall feelings of, the Japanese film industry's success rate at adapting their manga and or anime. Now I'm gonna kick it off to you guys first. So I'm gonna kick it off to Corrie to kick this off and give us a basis for discussion on what do you think of just their success rate in Japan?
Unfortunately, there's like I said, there's more bad than there is good, and I think that comes down to when something is popular, and this is just me coming at it from somebody who's recently had to deal with film industry stuff. Um, it seems to be if something is popular, if it's a manga, for example, or it's in Shonen, I know Shonen Jump is a manga, but there just seems to be this thing where they jump onto it and they rush out an anime. Most of the time, the anime is a bit more well thought out. But then you'll have certain things, even with the anime. A perfect example is Gantz, right? You
Hmm.
had that anime that was being produced at the same time as the manga, and the anime kind of it's that Game of Thrones thing where the
Mm,
anime was ahead of the actual what you're reading on paper, and they had to make up their own story which had nothing to do with the manga, and
Hmm.
that kind of happens with the live action stuff.
Hmm.
You have something like Attack on Titan, for example, which became a global phenomenon. I think I'm just thinking like I've been into like manga and anime and stuff ever since I was a child, so I don't really remember anything in recent history that had such a huge fan base kind of latch onto it as Attack on Titan did. And that got, yeah, like I said, very famous very quickly, very popular, and they rushed out a couple of live action films, which might surprise people. They're not on my list.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think I've got stuff that's worse. Uh,
Wow.
that's just my opinion. It
Hmm.
might change. You guys might talk about it. It might change. Um, but you know, a lot of people will automatically just go, okay, yeah, Dragon Ball Evolution is the worst, and a lot of us will probably agree on that it is one of the worst. I actually think there's some Japanese ones that will give it a good run for its money.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
But stuff like Dragon Ball Evolution has been like that movie's been talked like people talking about us talking have spoken about that for years, and there's video essays on YouTube, all sorts of things. Um, and then you have things like I guess Alita, Battle Angel, and Ghost in the Shell, which compared to some Japanese stuff, like they're fine. Like
Yeah.
they're like okay, I watched them once and I went I'm not going to watch these again, but I know there are Japanese films that are worse. And I think the big issue is um, lack of communication between industries. I think what Hollywood and Japan need to do is actually sit down together and go, you make this stuff and we make this stuff. Because some of the stuff in my list is in my list because they don't work as Japanese films.
Mm.
Because this might shock some people, but a lot of Japanese stuff, the character, just because it's written by a Japanese person doesn't mean that the characters and the setting is Japan.
Hmm.
So you can have those like, for example, again, Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
Uh, there's a bunch of others on my list, but you know, Attack on Titan. Obviously, it's a fictional place, but it's clearly meant to be Germany, and even the characters have German names.
Hmm.
You know, they're not
Mhm.
Japanese characters. So a film like that doesn't necessarily have to be made by Hollywood, but it needs to be more European. Um, and I think that's why a lot of things don't work and yeah, get rushed out. Anyway, what are your thoughts, Ray? You live in Japan, so you probably have a better understanding of this than me.
Yeah, well, just going off of the one point you left at on what is it about how you said that even though a character even if a work is written by a Japanese author, it doesn't necessarily mean that the characters are Japanese. Attack on Titan, for example. I think the reason why uh what is it? Well, this is kind of verging off a different topic, but the reason why you have those live actions being portrayed by Japanese actors is because there's only Japanese actors really in the talent pool here. So that's just going to be one of those things that are going to get. That's just one of those things. It just can't be helped, you know. It's not a diverse casting environment, just like how we would have like in our own countries. Um, but that being said, I think also, yeah, going back to uh, seeing which ones are popular and which ones get put out in that order from manga to anime to live action, even to TV drama too. It's going to be either uh, uh, movie, TV drama, although I think the movie tends to come first and then the TV drama comes later.
Mm.
I
That's what
think that
happened with Death Note. Death Note did that. Like you had the
mm,
live actions and then multiple TV dramas. I think there was more than one, wasn't there? Or am I misremembering?
possibly. I know there was at least one. I don't know
Yeah.
Yeah.
about multiple ones, but I know there was at least one, and I heard it wasn't that good. I don't know. I don't watch TV dramas so much. But yeah, like they capitalize on the popularity just like that. Which is surprising because it took how many years for One Piece to come out with a live action,
Mm.
and the reason why I think, I mean, I'm not sure if your guys' opinions on One Piece, if you guys seen it or not, also, but I personally loved it, and I think the reason why it was so good is because Oda, the original author, was in direct, like, kind of in the approval process of certain
Mm.
steps, like,
He
Mm.
you
had a
know,
lot of control over that project.
yeah, which I think is very rare. 'Cause I think it's just because of how big the IP is in Japan. I think that gave him that power. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I think generally, like once the author contributes it to the publishing company, like Shonen Jump, and then they outsource that to become an anime. I think it's out of the author's hands at that point as far as where the creativity goes, unless they're reached out to intentionally and given and allowed to give input on the creative steps. But I think for the most part, once it's like technically, I'm pretty sure the like Shonen Jump owns whatever manga it decides to serialize, and then I'm not sure how the ownership process, the licensing process works, but I'm pretty sure once it's it's probably Shonen Jump that has that direct line of communication with whoever's making that live action. The author, I'm not sure. I think it's a case by case basis, like if the author has any sort of input. But usually, depending on the director, they might be a fan of the work, so that way they can give it a sincere, give it a sincere amount of heart. Put some good quality in it. Sometimes you might get like a Takashi Miike who just wants to do it for a paycheck. It's the case.
Sometimes you get directors that say that they love the work and then they go and make a live action film and they misunderstand the entire original thing. I have an example of that on this list.
Ooh.
Exactly.
Not
Yeah,
a Japanese,
exactly.
not this one. Actually, I cheated. It's not a Japanese film. It's not a Hollywood film either.
All right. We're flexible.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, my opinion on this. Are you done, Corey? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh yes, I'm done. Sorry. No,
Or are you done, Ray?
I'm done too. Yeah, I'm good.
So when I was working on this list, this bottom 10 list, I found it to be, because I was really trying to find like some really bad stuff in my rankings. I found it to be fairly easy to get to 10, but then after that, I was having a little bit of difficulty finding like really bad stuff. So I have a little bit, probably more of a positive opinion on it. But I would say that in general, if you were to take the bottom 10 Japanese, like the movies we're covering tonight are worse than the majority of like the Hollywood productions. They are worse. So like I think the bottom is way lower, but like the highs are higher, I guess I would say, for like the Japanese film industry's adaptations. Because when I was looking through the list, because we had this huge list of like 200 movies, and I looked through and I'm like, well, there's a bunch of mediocre stuff, some really terrible stuff, but there was actually there was more movies I enjoyed than I was expecting going through the list. But I do think that the money grubbing aspect of it, which we briefly talked about before this started, is part of it, where it's like, hey, it's kind of like how a Hollywood producer be like, hey, here's a popular IP, let's make a movie, and then they make the movie and then it stinks. But one observation I've had regarding these types of movies is that sometimes the budget limitations can hurt them as well. If you're going for more like a blockbuster style of film, and that's a criticism I've had of, the Japanese film industry in general. A lot of times they're big budget blockbusters. They just don't have enough production value behind them. And then you have something like Godzilla -1 come out on a limited budget and it's really good. So I guess it depends on the type of film and who's making it. But yeah, the budget limitations are another aspect that I think are a bit of a problem for them. But I think we're ready to crack into our top or bottom 10s, right? You guys ready to roll?
It's your show, man. You go first.
All right. So, and for everybody watching, I'll make lists as we go through, and I'll include it in like the comments section on the YouTube video, so you guys will have the lists as you're watching. Now, my bottom 10, okay, this is number 10. We'll probably do 10 first and then 9 next, and just go in like a rotation.
Oh, you want to go worst first? Are we doing worst first?
No.
Oh, wait, no.
So we're going 10 to 1.
Yeah, sorry, I got it.
The worst we always say for last.
Yeah.
Just so you know, it's late for Ray and I.
All right.
If we sound and look tired, it's because we are.
So, okay, number 10 for me. This one's a little weird, off the grid, but I'm going with Guinea Pig, Flower of Flesh and Blood from 1985. It's a Japanese horror movie, and this is very notorious, this film, for its violence, its graphic violence. It's basically like a fake snuff film, basically. Now, it does kind of do what it's intending to do, be that fake snuff film feel, but it's just kind of like repetitive, boring. It doesn't interest me, this movie. And this was written and directed by Hideshi Hino, who works in manga. And he came out with a few like direct-to-video movies called the Hideshi Hino Theater of Horror back in the 2000s, and I thought a few of those were pretty good. But this is just like a movie with a girl getting dismembered for like 40 minutes, and like that's your movie.
Ooh.
And it's just like it's just too one-dimensional to even hold my interest. But again, I haven't read the manga. Maybe it's a faithful adaptation. I just don't feel like they did a good job of kind of adapting it to that the cinema experience. And obviously the story behind this one is Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen. I
Oh
was going to
yeah.
say the Charlie Sheen story. You tell this Charlie Sheen story. It's so funny.
So apparently, word is back in the 80s, this movie was like back in the day when people would trade VHS tapes, and they would be like bootleg VHSs, and Charlie Sheen got a hold of it. And he got a hold of Charlie Sheen watched Flower of Flesh and Blood, right? So he's sitting there. I think he was on drugs too, apparently. And
I don't believe Charlie Sheen taking drugs. No, never.
so he was convinced that the movie was a real snuff film, and he called authorities to like have them investigate. But as it turned out, it
didn't
was
the
fake.
FBI get involved at one
Yeah,
point?
yeah.
That's crazy, man.
So that's my number 10. That's my number 10.
That is an obscure one to start with.
Yeah. I have a few oddball ones here, so
that's all right. Mine are a bit more mainstream.
that's fun. We'll cover more movies then.
Yeah, my number 10 is Black Butler.
Ooh.
I'm a fan of that show. I've some of these I've either read the manga or I've watched the anime. Now I know you said some of them are based on one thing and not the other, and there's a lot of crossover. Some things are based on novels as well, and then they get made into an anime and then a live action. I've got one of those on my list. But I think Black Butler, what it does wrong, is pretty much everything. It gets a lot of the characters wrong. It gets the setting wrong. Again, this goes back to what Ray was saying when Japan only has access to Japanese actors and Japanese settings. So when you take a story that's meant to be set in Victorian England, or have that Victorian English kind of vibe, and yeah, it doesn't really work with Japanese actors. Again, this is one of those examples where this film should have been made in the UK or Hollywood or something like that. And they do something different to the original show. They set it in like a futuristic type city, and there's all these weird things going on that don't make sense. And they change the gender of one of the main characters to make it more I guess yeah, it's because it obviously the original show and then I can't speak for the manga, but there's kind of a bit of there's a vibe going on there, and when they made the live action, they didn't want to go anywhere near that vibe, so they cast a female in what should have been a male role. But yeah, wasn't a fan of the film. I don't know what other fans of Black Butler think of it. If you're a fan of Black Butler and you've seen the live action, please let me know. I'll check the comments and have a read. Have either of you seen this one?
I personally haven't seen it, but I've seen it on so many worst anime adaptation lists of all time. And for those
Yeah.
exact reasons too, like they changed the setting, they changed the just like even the butler himself, like his name, his family name was changed even too,
Yeah,
right?
I think so. Yeah.
Right. And like the gender of the one he's serving, uh yeah, just and into a modern setting. Is it in Japan too? Does it actually take place in Japan?
It's weird. They don't really. It's hard to tell because they're all Japanese, but then there's, of course, a character in whiteface at one point, and you're like, I don't know what's happening here. I don't get it.
Mm.
Yeah, but
I
it's just a
saw.
bad. And overall, the film is just bad. Like the story's shit. Like it's not good.
I watched the movie without reading the manga or any of the supporting material. I thought it was like watchable fluff is the best you could consider it. That was
Yeah,
watchable fluff. Some interesting set designs and there's like a girl, a maid who would dual wielding pistols at one point or something like that. I remembered. So
yeah,
it's watchable trash for me.
yeah. But as an adaptation,
Oh, it's got I can imagine.
it's not good. Like I agree. If you don't, that's how I feel about the Attack on Titan films, which we might talk about at some point. But I'm not a fan of that anime, and I think I gave up after a handful of episodes, and I
Mm.
never read the manga. So I can watch those movies as just like like that kind of like background.
Hmm.
Like I can kind of watch them as like kaiju films actually,
Yeah.
Hmm.
because they use that whole men in suit thing that we
The
haven't really
direct
seen in
the
such a long time.
director is a kaiju director too. What is it? He
Exactly.
did he direct the Gamera trilogy? Is that the same guy?
No, I think or maybe he
No,
did the special effects or something for
Um,
no.
those.
I know he's a kaiju, like the oh my God, I can't believe I'm forgetting the information of dude, but I know he just done kaiju in the
Yeah.
past.
Yeah.
But anyway, we might get onto those films later on. But
Hmm.
yes. What about you,
Okay.
Ray? What's your number 10?
All right. So a lot of my lists, I'd say I'm looking at my list right now. I'd say probably only less than half I've actually seen or read the source anime or manga. A lot of these times I just watch and like, it's not for me, you know. And looking
Mm,
upon our joint list, like I'm like, yeah, that wasn't too bad. I found some enjoyment in that. I'm kind of like the way I watch movies, I don't I'm kind of like if it doesn't hit me, I'm just kind of neutral about it. Uh, with the exception of probably my bottom three, bottom three movies. But for the most part, I'm pretty neutral about it. But out of those movies that I was kind of neutral about, the first one I'll talk about is this film called Himeanole. Uh,
Mm.
it's supposed to be some kind of black comedy, romantic comedy, serial killer slasher hybrid. And that's what I didn't dig about it because it was a total schizophrenic mess. When it was in its own respective genres, it was fine. The casting was great, but once it started jumping, it was just like, okay, what movie am I supposed to be watching? Like you get to the romantic part of the story, and it's like not teen romance either. There's like sex in it too. It's like it's definitely adapted from an adult targeted source material. Uh, and then it just kind of like it just slowly morphs into like it being stalked by this serial killer. I forget for what the connection was. It's been a while since I watched it, but I just recall feeling like just feels like it doesn't harmonize. It doesn't like
Hmm.
smoothly go to one genre to the next. It just kind of just here's a romance. It was even a romantic triangle at one point, or hinting at one, and then it's a slasher serial killer stalker movie, and it's like, wait, what is this movie supposed to be about again? And I mean, I think there is entertainment value in each respective genre that it covered, but as a whole, if it was for me, it was a jumbled mess. Yeah, that's my take on that.
You
It's
can do that.
understandable.
You can do the genre swap thing very well. One Cut of the Dead, for example. That's
Oh
a
yeah.
great genre swap film, but when you try to like throw in too much, yeah, it doesn't work. I've not seen this film, but just hearing you describe it, I'm like, yeah, I can see why that's a mess.
Yeah, I saw it. It is kind of messy in that respect, but I kind of like the tonal shifts and jumbled genres,
Mm.
even when it doesn't work. It just interests me a little bit. So that might be why I ended up thinking I was all right. It was pretty good. I can't remember even if I don't think I reviewed it on my channel. Maybe because it's tough to find nowadays, but
Ah.
there might be one I could tackle because it's definitely an odd movie.
Mm-hmm. But
So
I'm looking at the Wikipedia page right now, and I guess it's the same author as the guy who did wait, is this the film I'm thinking? Yeah, Himizu, the one that was directed by Sono Shion.
oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
right.
same author, So like it's not like I'm pretty sure the source material is quality, but as a movie, yeah, just didn't work for me.
That's understandable for sure. All right, number 9 for me. Another, you're gonna have some. There's a few movies on this list that are like sequels to like horror franchises. So they came out with this horror franchise back in the 90s called Eiko Eiko Azarak. It's about a schoolgirl witch.
Hmm.
And the first 3 films are flawed in their own ways, but I enjoyed all 3 of them to a certain degree. And they all had like a cinematic quality. They felt like movies, at least, at the very least. And then they came out with like a part 4 called Awakening in 2001, and it is atrocious. Just atrocious. You could tell this was just a straight up money grab, like almost no budget, no cinematic qualities at all. I would have criticisms on the original trilogy that there wasn't enough evil schoolgirl magic going on, but this one has like
Mhm.
almost nothing, like absolutely nothing. And it has like this weird social commentary vibe where they were criticizing like media throughout the whole movie, which is it's up my alley, but the way it's done is just terrible. So they tried to throw like a social commentary thing in and it didn't work. This is just like, I don't know what they were thinking when they made this movie. It's everything about it. The lead
Mm.
actress, everything's just bad. So yeah, another deep cut. Eiko Eiko Azarak, Awakening is my choice for number 9.
I had no idea they made a fourth one of those. So this is news to me. But I agree. I like the original 3. They're fine. Like, but yeah, I didn't know this existed. But if they're trying to do social commentary about the media, it's like you can't beat Network. That's like the
Yeah.
greatest, one of the greatest films ever made, and that did that 50 years ago better than
Mm-hmm.
any film ever could.
It's your turn, Corey.
Oh, me. I thought Ray might. Have you seen this film, Ray?
I
Or
Oh,
have not seen it. It's too deep of a cut for me to
it's
be honest.
yeah.
I haven't seen any of the
Uh,
series. Like I'm writing it down so I'm on my to watch list.
no.
okay. My number 9 is a film called Tokyo Slaves.
Never
Yeah,
saw it.
that's the
Yeah.
react. Yeah, exactly. You're not the only one, sir, who has these obscure films. So so Tokyo Slaves is a manga that I thought was. I read a lot, and I read. I like to read kind of like it's weird. I'll read like really dark stuff, and then I'll read slice of life stuff.
Mhm.
It's one or the other with me. Um, and Tokyo Slaves is this kind of like dark, battle royale-esque
Mm,
sci-fi thing that has a bit of BDSM stuff
Ooh.
linked to
mm.
it as well. Yeah, it's that type of thing. Not the film, the manga, which is called
Uh,
something else. Hang on, I probably can't. Um, Doreku, I think I think that's how you say it. I don't know. I
Yeah.
can
Yeah,
say, is that
Doreku.
it? Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
so
it.
it's yeah, they made a live action film called Tokyo Slaves with that guy that's in everything.
Yeah,
He was in
Hongo
Lily
Kanata.
Frankie.
uh
Not Louis
no,
Frankie.
no, Kanata Hongo. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, yeah. He's the basically he plays the conniving, slithery dude
In
like
everything.
Kingdom,
In
Gantz. Uh,
Gantz, yeah.
Okay,
He's
yeah,
okay.
he's gonna be in Yu Yu Hakusho too coming up.
he's in
Uh,
his like mid-30s and he's played the same character in everything he's ever been in. He's that
yeah,
guy.
that
Um,
guy.
uh, so he's in it, and honestly, and this is coming from me, somebody who's made a micro-budget film. This film, so this film you can buy. I bought this when I was in Hong Kong, um, because it was available on Blu-ray, and I saw it on the shelf, and I went, "Oh, okay." And I didn't know it was based on this manga because it was called a different thing. Um, and it looks worse than a TV show, like a cheap TV show. It's the budget for this thing must have been $5. uh, it's just yeah, the production value of it is just really poor. It I don't. It feels like something that was shot for TV, and then they went, okay, let's slap it on. It probably went to cinemas, I assume, if it's based on this thing. But it's
Hmm.
I don't even remember what the film was about. I just remember it being bad. Um, yeah, just very amateur. Um,
Hmm. Another
so I
production value issue too.
it is
Script writing
it,
too.
yeah. I think you should review this one at some point, Eric. Honestly,
Oh no.
no, seriously. Like you might have a different opinion on it, but it's one of those films that I'm surprised more people don't know about because
Hmm.
if it's got a Blu-ray release with English subtitles, like there's not many
Well,
films that get that. So I
all
don't know.
right.
Maybe check it out, and
All right.
I'd be interested to see what you think of this thing. But yeah, it's one of those you've seen it all before things. It
Hmm.
offers nothing new to that kind of like battle royale. I don't know. I guess you'd call it Squid Game now. Is that what they call it? Squid Game like?
Yeah.
Oh, oh my, is that
Um,
what they're simplifying the
I
genre
don't
now?
know. Everybody just kind of refers to Squid Game when it comes to these type of things
Oh
now, even though
no.
they were Japan's been doing this stuff forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll find a million movies just with the name something game on
Yeah.
it, and it's the exact same movie.
Yeah,
Werewolf game, friend
Joker
game,
game.
Joker game,
Joker
liar
Game, that
game.
one.
It's like
Yeah,
they're all the same basic elimination by death plot.
yeah. So this is one of those, and
Oh
Uh,
so
no. All
yeah.
right.
So
What
that's my
about you,
number
Ray?
nine.
Did you
So
did
yeah,
you see this
close.
one at all, Ray, or no? You didn't.
no,
Yeah.
I did not see this one. But my whole list is probably more going to be the most mainstream out of everyone, I feel.
All right, you're up.
All right. This is my number nine. I put it here. It might hit people in different ways, but the reason why I put it is because I really enjoyed the source material. And that is Lupin the Third. I did not like Lupin the Third as a live action. I mean, I like
Oh.
the cast, and surprisingly, I don't know if you guys know, they made recent sequels using some of the characters like in this movie. Like
Oh.
you guys
Really?
have you guys yeah, like in there's a Hulu original starring, it's called Jigen, Daisuke Jigen, and it stars
Right.
the same guy.
Oh,
It's
I've
a
seen that
spin-off.
advertised somewhere.
Yeah, I believe it's the same I believe it's the same. I could be
Oh.
wrong. I hope I'm not wrong, but I've seen that floating around like as a Hulu original. But yeah, I love Lupin the Third, one of my favorite just characters, ensemble cast of characters of all time. And they try to modernize him. They took away his pompadour, uh, and they took away his theme music. I don't know, like you had some talent behind the music. You had what's that guy who made the Kill Bill song?
Oh, I
The,
forgot.
yeah, the guy who wrote the main Kill Bill theme song wrote the soundtrack, if not, not if not the soundtrack, then the main theme. And I would have forgiven this movie if, like, when the moment they played the music, it was like perfect, but they arranged it so much that it was nearly unrecognizable. And I just couldn't forgive it. I don't know. That was like the biggest sin for me. I was like, okay, it had the makings of what could be a good Lupin movie. It had an international cast. It had different languages being spoken, which is pretty tropey for a Lupin film, and I'm all about that. But I felt like, what is it? Ogre Shun as Lupin wasn't too like Lupin's usually silly, but that's just a front of just how smart and cunning he is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Zenigata, he's supposed to be like this guy who's just like this cranky dude just like trying to chase down Lupin, but they cast Tadanobu Asano, and he's just too
Mm.
cool to be Zenigata. I don't know. Every, Everyone else was all right. Kuroki Mesa as Fujiko, I did not disagree with at all. Ayano Go as Goemon, I didn't agree. I didn't disagree with it at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that I don't know. It just wasn't satisfying as a Lupin fan. So that's my number nine.
I could see
I,
that.
Only number 9. It's much higher on my list.
Wow. I was a little bit more forgiving of this, and I'm somebody who just
Really?
I trash Kitamura up and down the block nowadays. He's just talking about
Yeah.
a director who just doesn't care. But this is the last film of his I could actually sit through, I think.
Wow.
Maybe because Asano's having such a good time.
I paid money to see this in the theaters too, man. I
I
paid
did
money
Ooh.
to
too.
see this in the
I
theaters.
saw I saw this played at cinemas in Australia. This got an Australian release. So yeah, we'll save what I think about this film for further down the track.
For
Wow.
sure.
All
Mm.
right. So my number 8 is another sequel. Now they came out with a really good movie back in the day in the mid 2000s, a movie by the name of Nana. Good
Ah,
cast, really good movie. I really liked that one. And then they decided to make a sequel. And they passed the script out to Aoi Miyazaki, Ryuhei Matsuda, and Kenichi Matsuyama, and they all said, peace. None of them returned. So that right there is a big red flag. And so I rewatched this one a handful of months ago. Actually, did I review this? I forget. But it's bad. Like if you basically take the original film, you get that core group of really good, compelling actors, and it really focused a lot on friendship. You know what I mean? And there was a really good dramatic aspect to it. In this one, the sequel, the new lead actress is horrible. They do have one of the other actresses returns. I forgot her name. But they focus more on like a puppy dog romance between like this new actress and her boyfriend, and it's 2 hours and 10 minutes long. And it's just like it's such a huge disappointment for a sequel to just a legitimately good flick. So that's my number 8 right there is Nana Part 2.
again, I'm aware that this film exists and I love the original. Um, but just never might have been an availability thing. I never watched this movie.
Mm.
So
Uh,
It's further down my list.
nice.
It's further down my list. I'll
all
save my
right.
comments for that.
My number 8 is a film from 2020, which is based on a manga and obviously an anime. And I watched the anime all the way through, and I very much disliked the anime. It's on Amazon Prime here in Australia, and I checked out the live action film because it was directed by the same guy that directed Tokyo Revengers.
Hmm.
Mm,
He made Tokyo Revengers in 2021, which I enjoyed a fair bit,
mm.
I'll be honest.
That was
Yeah.
Uh,
same here. Yeah.
yeah, and then this is the film he made prior to that, and it's called Grand Blue.
Never saw it.
Never saw it either.
It's about a guy who has to go to college, and he goes to stay with an uncle who has a scuba diving school by the sea. And I thought I was just going to get myself into like a typical slice of life thing where the guy from the city comes, oh, he meets all these like uh, people that live by the beach and he learns something about himself.
Like wood
But what I
job.
got, like Woodjob, yes. But Grand Blue might be objectively the most offensive film I've ever watched in my life. Like it is the jokes, if you want to call them that, are like incest jokes about him wanting to pardon my French. Hopefully this doesn't get you in trouble by YouTube. He he wants to fuck his cousin and he wants to see her naked half the time, and then his other cousin is like overly sexual towards him. And it also does this amazing thing. I've never seen a film do this, and hats off to the director for making a film that happened to be incredibly homoerotic, but at the same time incredibly homophobic. I don't know how he managed to pull that off, but he did. But it's awful. It's an
Wow.
awful film. Like it's not. I don't know. It's clearly toilet humor, and it's toilet humor for 12-year-old boys. But
Hmm.
it's like I get that kind of. We all have those movies and those kind of jokes and things like that. Um, You know, we have an famous Australian comedian, Jim Jeffries, who I've seen multiple times, and he can do the toilet humor stuff quite well. But I don't know, it just felt wrong. So Grand Blue, I think the anime might be called Grand Blue Dreaming, but the film was
Mm.
called Grand Blue. But if you
Mm.
like the director of Tokyo Revengers and you like Tokyo Revengers, you kind of need to see what he did 12 months prior to making the other film, and it's this thing.
Man, we're already hitting some real trash. We're only at 8.
I know, right?
Have you seen this one, Ray?
I have not seen this one. I mean, I liked it. I've seen Tokyo Avengers. Took the Tokyo Avengers Part 2 and 3 came out in theaters this year. Haven't seen either of them. I'm just waiting for a home or a streaming release before I can watch them. But now this is kind of making me nervous. It's like, Tokyo Avengers are great, but if if this kind of rubbish is in this guy's repertoire, it's like I hope he didn't.
I don't know how he managed to do this and then make such a good film like
Yeah,
Tokyo Revengers like a year later. But who knows? It could have been a
it could
contractual thing. He might
Yeah.
have
could have
just
been the source
he might have
material.
been he might have been Taika Waititi and needed to feed his kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, that's the
Yeah.
reality of the film industry.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, you got
Yeah.
to do jobs just to pay the bills. So it could have been one of those.
All right, Ray. What's your number
You're right.
8?
All right, let's talk about Attack on Titan.
Mm.
So, like, well, I can enjoy it as a kaiju movie, but I really enjoy the anime. I really enjoyed the manga. If I had to choose between which one I could specify I could be the number 8 spot, it would be definitely the second one because that's when they started just flying off the rails and doing just like it completely derailed from the source material. You had at least like 80, 70, 60% of the source material in the first movie. Granted, I haven't seen the final season yet. I'm still working way up, but I'm not sure. I don't know how the way they ended the second movie closely resembles or is far different from that movie and the ending, but it just went off the rails and it just kind of lost me. And it's like the hold on a second. I'm
Distracted
getting
by
shown an
doors.
Erik over here. Yeah, you can see a little hand tapping on my shoulder right now. But I lost my train of thought now. Just like Attack on Titan 2. Um, but what is it? Uh, I couldn't enjoy it as a kaiju movie. The second one, it granted the anime itself it goes into all sorts of like themes about like society, all these commentaries on politics and stuff like that, a la Game of Thrones and whatnot. But the second one tries to go into like more like it goes from a kaiju movie, then suddenly it does a 180 into like let's talk about philosophy.
Yeah,
Let's
room
talk about
with a
yeah,
jukebox. Okay.
yeah. It's like let's reveal this that had like let's reveal this detail that kind of really had no build up to it. It just kind of like plop out of nowhere, and it's like for shock value, but it's like you know it had no if they had built up to it or it had signs of it throughout the show or throughout the show throughout this first movie, even the second movie building up to it, it would have been more acceptable. But yeah, it just lost me. Like definitely like partway through, like maybe before the halfway point in the second movie. It was yeah. So that's my number 8, Attack on Titan, specifically part 2.
Yeah, I think the Attack on Titan live action films are the perfect example when it comes to rushing out a product to capitalize on its popularity.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect example. Like these films probably could, like I do maintain I think these films probably would work better as, a Hollywood film. Um, However, I do think you could make them in Japan the way that they did. It was just completely rushed. The whole thing
Mm.
was rushed. Um, and I don't understand if something's so popular, is it really that hard to reach out to the author and say, hey, can you give us a night? You don't have to tell us exactly where you're going with
Mm-hmm.
your written word, but could you come on and kind of give us like maybe an alternative ending or something? Like consult them, pick up the phone, do something, but they don't. Again, these
Mhm.
people don't care. They only care about money.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It's like how quickly can you get this? That's why they would hire certain people to make these things. I'm surprised Mike wasn't hired to do this because he's good at like pumping out stuff. But purely product. That's all these things are.
Yeah.
Um,
Looking at it right now, the director Shinji Higuchi, he went on to direct one of the co-directors of Shin Godzilla and also
yeah,
the director of Shin Ultraman. So you can see like the kaiju,
yeah,
like is as a kaiju or even just a tokusatsu like filmmaker, it works. But I
yeah,
think when it came for me as a fan of the source material, it didn't work like
yeah.
with that as my expectations. If that makes
I,
sense.
I mean, it's a good thing that he made them because then we got Shin Godzilla and Shin
Hmm.
Ultraman.
Yeah.
And for all we know, it could have been again a stepping stone to get bigger franchises or whatever. It could have been them testing him to say, okay, if you do this, then we'll allow you to do this thing. And again, quite funny how Attack on Titan is mainly about politics and maybe the filmmaking behind it. There was probably a lot of politics involved in that as well.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on this one, Eric?
Well, we could just roll right into my number 7 because Attack on
Perfect.
Titan Part 2 was my choice for number 7. So yeah, I do kind of like the first one just as a horror kaiju film.
Yeah,
It's funny because when these movies were going to come out, my number one concern were the production values, and that's actually the least of these films' problems because the script writing is what tanks them. Even like some of the Titan effects actually look pretty good, for the budget that they were working with. But yeah, Ray hit it right on the head. Like this movie lost me maybe like 40 minutes in. You get like a few decent scenes early on, but then they just like, hey, let's sit around and talk about stuff, the whole time. And the script isn't good enough to carry that type of film here. And then you have some of the character problems in the first film start to get even worse in this one because there's not enough like Titan action to kind of keep you going. And yeah, they just the whole plot line that they decided on was just really bad. Really bad. It's such a lethargic, like boring film to watch, the second one. And yeah, even like some of the characters like Mikasa, it's just not right. They're not good enough to carry
yeah.
the film. And then the horror aspect that I liked about the first one, that kind of fades a little bit in
Hmm.
this one because you're going into like human conflicts and they're trying to make it into like a deep movie or something and they just can't do it. So
Hmm.
yeah, this one is it's I'll never watch this film again. But I could see myself watching the first one again if I felt like a kaiju horror flick. So that's my
Hmm.
number 7.
Cool. Well, my number 7, and I kind of alluded to this before, is a film that I've seen people defend because they say, well, it's based on the original novel, it's not based on the anime. Now, this is me putting my cynical filmmaking hat on. If you're going to make a live action film and Miyazaki's already done it as an anime,
Oh no.
Oh,
and
I know
you're
what
gonna
you're getting
and
to.
you're gonna tell me, oh no, it's based on the original novel. Nobody would have read the novel if the anime didn't exist, let's be honest. And that is, I have a tattoo right
Hmm.
here. Kiki's Delivery Service, one of my childhood. I loved that movie growing up as a kid. Uh, this film, Kiki, they made, if you don't know, there is a live action Kiki's Delivery Service directed by the man who directed The Grudge.
Which, yeah.
Now, look, I love the guy, and he's responsible for, kind of not just creating a genre for Japan or a resurgence of Japanese horror, but internationally, like that J horror boom, like he's partially responsible for that.
Hmm.
Go from that to directing Kiki's Delivery Service, what again might have been a director for hire, but this film just it shouldn't exist. The anime film exists. I know people come out and they say, "Oh no," but they wanted to make it more like the book. But it's like 100% that the only reason they made this is because of the popularity of that
Mm-hmm.
anime. That's the only reason. And the girl they cast is way too old. It's bland, it's forgettable, and you shouldn't be saying those words when you're talking about Kiki's delivery service.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure you both have seen this, right? Surely.
Oh yes, I paid to see it in the theaters too.
No.
Because like
Give us your thoughts on this one, Ray. If it's is it on your
so
list by any
I
chance?
it would have been if the source material was. I try to keep it my list faithful to being like an actual anime or manga source material,
Yeah, no, that's true.
but like but I would have, but put in my list, but I would have put it much lower
Yeah.
on my list. But like yes, like everything you said, 100% agree, and I think the kicker, well, for me was like a part way through, like there was this side story about this pop singer who lost her ability to
Oh, that's
sing.
right. I
Yeah, right.
forgot. Oh,
Like,
wow.
and like this, like because she just lost her like her motivation, and she saw Kiki for some reason where she saw Kiki braving a storm in the sky off in the distance and decided she got her voice back and she started to sing through the thunderous storm and the song reached Kiki for some reason
Oh,
and
that's
it took
right.
to this whole like pop music video. I'm not sure if they were trying to promote the singer or anything like that, but it's just one of the most bizarre, like taking you out of the moment scenes I've ever experienced in any movie from any country.
I
I was
think I
like,
have PTSD because I don't remember that. I think my I blocked that from my brain.
I will always remember that because I was in the theater, just like, what is this scene? Like, how can she hear her? It's like, first of all, it's like Kiki's like trying to deliver her package, and it's storming. There's thunder and lightning, and then the singer looks outside her door. She's like, "Ah, I gotta help Kiki." She's like, first of all, how is she? What? And then she starts singing, belting out her vocals, and it's like it helps like motivate Kiki. I was like, where's the sense? Where's the logic in that? You know?
Oh, man.
And yeah, I'll stop there.
Yeah,
Is this
perfect
on your
example.
list, Eric? Or have you got
No,
this?
but it's the
No?
perfect example of a movie that just should not exist. There's just no
Yeah.
point for its existence at all. You know, that's basically how I feel about it.
Hmm.
But yeah. So my number
Okay.
six, this is a movie that again, kind of like a low budget horror comedy, but it kind of gets me fired up because I feel insulted while I watch it. And that is Big Tits Zombie, also known as Big Tits Dragon. And
Or
for no reason.
In Australia, it's Big Tits Zombie 3D, I think. I think we got a 3D version of that.
Oh, even better. Yeah, this
Let
is
me
a
check,
horror.
because I'm positive I had this on DVD at some point, but I need to check my photos. You keep going.
This is a horror comedy, and it's it shouldn't be that offensive. Well, maybe it should be for other people, but not for me. It's about a bunch of strippers who fight a bunch of zombies, right? So you're thinking, oh, okay, this is just going to be like a fun, trashy little movie. Maybe get a little nudity in there. You get some gore, some good zombie kills and stuff like that. You could actually make a pretty entertaining movie with this premise, but it's like what this movie is, my analogy is that this movie is like the Hooters of Japanese cinema. And why I say that is because, Hooters is like one of those restaurants where, if you're out of town on business or something and one of your coworkers is like, hey man, let's go to Hooters, right? And you're like, listen, man, we got some money. Let's get a real dinner. It's on the company. It's like, no, man, I want to go to Hooters, man. So you go there, you waste your time with crap food, spending money just to see some girls walk around scantily clad. And I feel like I'm just getting like exploited right now. I didn't get a meal, you know what I mean? Nothing. And a good meal or anything. And that's what this movie is. It's like they don't focus on the zombie attacks very well. They don't bother focusing on like good comedy or like any good like fight scenes or anything. It's like, hey, you're gonna like this movie because we just have a bunch of skimpy girls walking around, and that's what this movie is. And I'm insulted by it as a lover of true cinema. All right, so yeah, so that's my number 6.
I picked this up. This is I had to just go on eBay for a second. I don't know if people can see this. That's the Australian. This got an Australian DVD release in 3D, and it came with like the old school 80s style 3D glasses. Now I
Lord.
remember putting this on and it not actually being in 3D.
Oh,
Um,
mm.
but yes, it is. I can again. I don't know why this isn't on my list. So I forgot. Um,
Probably because you didn't find it to be as offensive as I did.
no, it's. I remember it being like this is kind of like Grand Blue, but for women, I guess. Like, the way it objectifies women and make like
Mm.
the things like that. Like I get it. Like these movies exist, and there's a market for it, and if the actors are agreeing to be in it and everybody's cool, then fine. But it's just garbage. It's
Mm.
pure garbage.
Oh yeah.
But got
Have
an
you seen this
Australian
one, Ray?
release.
I think Ray owns like 4 copies of this movie, don't you, Ray?
Don't tell his wife that.
I I might have seen it. I don't remember it at all though, with all honesty. Like it's just one of those like there was a time when I just wanted to watch this as really low budget, like because I used like there used to be a rental store where I live, and it was like, I'll watch all these like real Onigoko, like these like all these low budget like we're talking about these something game movies, you
Yeah.
know.
Mm.
And I was like, what's this movie? All right, let's put it in the basket. And but it's just one of those. I think I watched it during that time because I was just like, I just want to like I've seen like there's like okay like real for kind of diverging topics a little bit, but Real Onigoko is the original name for what Sonoshion made. Uh, he made Tag. Remember that movie
Mm-hmm.
Tag?
Oh
Yeah.
That
yeah, Tag's a brilliant film.
Yeah, I
yeah,
love
that
that one.
that's part of this Real Onigoko series. I think that Real Onigoko is like the might have been the Japanese title for that too.
Mm-hmm.
But like I wanted to see like I was interested to see the previous entries if it had any connection. It doesn't have any connection. Like I was like let's see what other kind of low budget something game movies are. And here's hold on, there's this little hand right here. And then what is it? And yeah, it was just one of those like yeah, eventually it just became a background movie.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah.
But
So
to be
that's
to
the
be fair, if you call your movie Big Tit Zombie, you're gonna sell it.
Yeah.
People are gonna buy it. You look at that DVD cover I just showed you. I bought that DVD, and I mainly picked it up though. It tricked me. It didn't get me for the tits. It got me for the 3D because I'm a sucker for old school 3D. And it came with the glasses and everything, and I thought I was gonna be in for like a I don't know, My Bloody Valentine 3D or a Dry
Yeah,
Van
yeah.
3D, but I didn't get that. I false advertising. Well, not really false advertising. You get what's on the cover. Oh, so it's my turn now, isn't it? Sorry.
Oh, is it yeah,
Um,
that's right. That was
oh,
my
so
pick for number
that was your
6.
pick, wasn't
oh
it? Yes.
I didn't get my
So
number hold on 6, 7, 8. I didn't get my number 7 out yet. May I
Oh, I
talk
thought it
about
was Oh, my bad. Did I skip
I think
one?
I think you might have skipped one. Yeah, I did. My number 7 was Kiki.
and I just like kind of I said I would have put Kiki on my list, but it would have been
Yeah, and
lower.
then we went to we
Oh, all right.
it's
Well,
fine.
go ahead.
We'll
It's
go
because it's
back to
pilot.
this one.
Okay, so just step back a second back a little. My number 7 is Kashan.
Ooh.
Oh
Kashan.
yes. Another one I
Kashan.
blocked from my memory because it's so bad.
Yeah, like I like what's the original anime called? It had a different name, didn't it? Like Battle of the Planets was that Kashan?
No, no,
Like
no. You're thinking of Gatchaman or whatever.
oh yeah,
Is that the
gotcha man.
one?
Oh my god, yeah, gotcha man. Which was that could have also been on this list.
Oh.
Oh
It
good
could,
lord.
yeah. I
It could
thought
have
about
also
it.
been on this. Yeah, it could have also been this list too. Gotcha, because it like partway through, I forgot it was a superhero movie.
Yes.
But like the opening act in Gotcha Man was great, but then I forgot it was a superhero movie. But Kashan, it tried too hard with its superhero premise. Like you had the makings of a typical superhero, like superhero movie, like superhero origin story from that era. I think it's made by the same company. Like all these old hero shows, like Yatta Man, Gotcha Man, like they're all like from the same pool of not creators, not even the same author, but like a group, right? Um, and I feel like Gatchaman just aimed too high for what it was trying to do. Like I think like the action was all right. It was directed by Kazuaki Kiriya, which I enjoyed. Like he did Goemon too, right? I liked Goemon, and
Yeah, I thought that one was okay.
yeah, and like I just felt like this movie tried to overreach with its goals. What it's trying to preach. It got too preachy at a point,
Yeah.
and like it didn't match. Like I felt like the over preaching was kind of like it just tried too hard. It tried to like for what it was trying for with the action that it was presenting, and the special effects weren't bad for the times, but what got me was that it just felt like it was just preaching too hard. So yeah, that's my number 7.
Yeah, that's a good choice. First time I saw this one, I disliked it for the same exact reasons. Like even the music is so over dramatic all the whole film. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
and then I rewatched it again like a few years later and actually kind of like it now.
Oh,
Just
right.
just for the styling. Just the stylization is
Uh,
it just feels
Right.
different from like a typical blockbuster film and I don't know, I just kind of like it now.
the trailers
I
make it
can
look awesome, to be honest, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I can see what you mean because it's kind of got this. It's almost like they're two very different films, but you look at something like Sin City
Yeah.
by Robert Rodriguez. It's very specific and stylized. That's what this is kind of that thing. Like very
Yeah.
different film, but yeah, I put it on God a few years ago. I think it's aged badly
Mm,
personally, but it's not a good movie.
no.
And going back to Gatchaman,
Mm,
it's that film. The first 10 minutes, fantastic.
Yeah.
Watch the first 10 minutes of that movie. Don't watch anything after the first
Yep.
10 minutes because you'll be very disappointed because
mhm.
they front loaded that thing big
Oh yeah.
time,
Yeah.
and then the rest of the runtime is just bloated, and you get a little bit of action again at the end, but nothing beats the opening like 10 minutes, which
No,
is a shame.
opening was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that could have been a great film.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's another one where you think like, did they just run out of money? Or was it a script writing thing, you know?
I think it was a script thing because
I
Oh,
they
think it was
okay.
clearly
scripting too. Yeah,
Okay.
had the money with that. Those effects were pretty good,
Yeah.
the
and
casting was good
the
too.
cast was
Casting is
good
good.
too. Yeah, so they didn't, throw away money or anything.
Okay.
Why they went with that script, I don't know. Maybe they only had a certain amount of money to do like the scenes with like the team and all that stuff, so they just went, "Oh, just put it all at the start. It's fine." Um,
All
anyway, so
right.
how do we do this now? Because we've done 7, we've done your 6. Are we going back to my 6
You're
now?
6. You're 6. Yeah, you're
Correct.
6.
Okay. So my 6 is another film based on a manga anime, obviously, because that's what this is. And I really liked this and when this came out, like the anime. I've not read the manga of this. Um, and I actually watched the English dub of this, which I know I'm a heathen for doing such, but this is
How
going
dare
back to
you?
like I know, but this is like I think this came out in like 2002, 2003, early to mid 2000s, where getting subtitled things in Australia was very hard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So
okay.
we just even growing up, like things like Cowboy Bebop, Neon Genesis, all those things, they were always the English dubs here in Australia. It wasn't until like later on that we got the original dubs with subs. So this was one
Mhm.
of those, but in the early to mid 2000s. And it's a show about a band. Um, well, and the story is about this guy who he's bullied and he joins this band and he has a great voice and it's called
Oh
Beck.
no! All right.
Oh,
And the anime is great. I love the anime, but they made a live action film with some really great actors in it. Really great actors in it, but they missed the point of the original story. And they do this thing where you never hear the guy sing
hmm
in the movie, and that's the whole point of the anime is his voice is so beautiful. Why they do that, I don't know. It's like if the actor can't sing, fine, just have them mime. But as a huge fan of Beck or Mongolian Chop Squad or whatever you want to call it,
hmm
I don't know. I just think they failed miserably with the film. I know it has its fans, but for me, I when you do things like remove the singing voice and have you interpret it as the viewer, I just think that just doesn't work for a story like this. Have you guys seen Back, the live action film?
Yes, I've seen both the anime, read the manga,
Yeah,
and the live action
yeah,
film. I was just like you.
yeah.
Um, this almost made my list, but I kind of gave it a second thought because going back to how you like they kind of muted his voice in the live action.
Mm,
I thought about it. I was like, maybe it could just be like they're trying to be artistic because his voice is so beautiful. It's
Yeah.
beyond human comprehension or whatever.
yeah,
They're trying to make it like that because okay, like the soundtrack to the anime was great. I love the
yeah.
soundtrack. I was
It's
bumping it for
fantastic.
years.
I own the soundtracks. They're so
Yeah, the
good.
soundtrack is amazing. Even though he doesn't have that like kind of world-changing voice as literally in the
Mm,
anime, it was still a fantastic soundtrack.
yeah.
If they had done it in the live action movie, maybe they were worried that they wouldn't live up to that standard, like of what they're trying to hype up the main character's voice to be. I don't know. So I was like, maybe that's just like an artistic choice, and I kind of forgave it a little bit from there.
Yeah.
Because I do like the cast. Granted, Hiro Mizushima does have a kind of an annoying lisp whenever he speaks English, but that's fine. We all have our speech impediments. But
Mm.
I don't know what is it.
I hated the girl that they cast as his
She's
sister.
Australian though, right? She's
She's
Australian too, right?
Australian and she has an
Yeah,
Australian accent, and they talk about them being from LA or whatever, or like
yeah,
living in
yeah, yeah,
LA.
yeah.
And I'm like, how do you
Mm.
have an Australian accent then? Explain that to me. And I think they did that because they just assumed, like, oh, nobody's going to know that this girl's Australian. When it's clear that she's Australian, she sounds as Australian as I do. And they go out of their way to mention that, how, like, they don't even acknowledge it, but it's so obvious. And you're just like,
hmm
how does this work? Um, but yeah, I just know it's a big no from me with this movie.
I actually kind of like it,
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
but I've never read the manga or
Yeah,
or, or
right.
the anime. So again, this is like one of those where I don't even know. I have no comparison to the source material. And
Have
just
you
like
heard
Ray
the
said, I just assumed it was an artistic choice. Oh, interesting
how,
artistic choice to
do you know the Japanese rock band Beat Crusaders?
no.
You might
Oh,
have heard
okay.
them in
Well,
like a lot of anime openings, like Naruto,
yeah,
or
yeah. They
Oh,
did
okay.
Naruto and
did they do Naruto? They did a
no,
lot. I forget who they
they
did.
did that Kappa one, the Kappa Mikey. They've got a song. His name is Kappa Mikey. Hey, hey, you out in the streets. They sing up most of their songs in English, which is
Yeah,
Oh.
quite
yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Hmm.
Didn't they do like
But
tonight's gonna make
yeah, they
it?
did that. Yeah, that was
That,
them.
what anime was that? Was that
Tonight
Bleach?
is
No,
the
no. What's it?
night. That might have
What
been
anime
Bleach,
was that?
actually.
I can't even remember. Oh my goodness! It was one of those long-running shows where they
Yeah,
changed openings like after every 26 episodes or something
Oh
like that.
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Kind of like Asian Kung Fu generation, like that type
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
Yeah. I do like my Japanese rock bands, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, they had a nice industry there, I think.
hmm
Mm. So anyway, that's my number six. What's your number six, right?
My number 6 is Nana 2. Let's go with Nana 2. Continuing off of what Erik was saying, yeah, like the first one had a lot of chemistry between the main actors. Uh, and Mika Nakashima, she is a well-established artist, singer in Japan. She's not active, but she still gets brought back in because she's just that iconic as a performing artist. Um, Obviously, Aoi Miyazaki, she's also very famous. I think this was like, I'm not sure how far in her career she was when she made this movie. I know she's been in movies for a while already, but the story is what I recall is that they announced Nana 2 before they finalized any of the contract renewals. I think that's how the story went. And so when that happened, like the actors who dropped out, I think they didn't appreciate that they decided to announce the movie before I could be getting my stories mixed up, because I'm pretty sure this is a common occurrence in a lot of sequel announcements. But yeah, the cast they brought in to replace those missing actors just didn't do the same. They didn't have the same chemistry. They didn't. There was it just felt empty, like you felt nothing between the titular nanas. It's just like nothing was there, and the music wasn't as memorable. The first one had some really cool songs, by both Nakashima Mika and also Ito Yuna, like who played the rival. I think Ito Yuna had a larger role in part two. I can't remember. It's been a long time, but I just remember that. I just remember a total absence of chemistry between any of the performers. No memorable music, and kind of like a really lackluster conclusion to this like melodramatic angle they had going on. That was the basis of Nano 2. So yeah, that's my number 6.
Yeah, you dodged a bullet by skipping this one, Corey, by not seeing this
Sounds
movie.
like it. I never plan on watching this, so it's fine.
All
Okay,
right.
we're in the top 5 now.
Top 5.
Oy.
We've already got some. I'm really looking forward to your top 5s. I know a few we're gonna have some overlap. I can tell already. And here's one for you. No, I always come strong with my number 5s. Fullmetal Alchemist. I'll just throw it out. I know it's a little low on the list, but I'm putting it at number 5.
That's too
And
low.
so
It
this
needs to
one,
be low. It needs to be not low enough. Sorry. It
yeah,
needs to
not
be
low enough. So yeah, this one,
Are we talking the whole trilogy here or just the one film?
I've only seen the first one.
Okay.
Same here. Same here. I refuse to watch a second.
You guys haven't
Second
watched
or
all
third.
3. I put myself through all 3.
Oh no. Well,
Yeah.
oh man. Okay, so that's definitely some added context. Because the first, yeah, it'll be interesting to see we'll see what you think. But yeah, when this movie came out, like I basically just watched the anime. I thought the anime was good. I wasn't like a huge fan of it, but I thought it was good. I saw the original one. And then the movie came out and I'm like, all right. And man, this movie is just so bad. Like, man, I almost feel like I mean, again, I think this is mostly a script writing problem, although people can point to the production values as well. But like the script is just so like over dramatic, and the acting is just really bad. And it's almost like they hired some cosplayer. This is like the movie where it's like, oh, this isn't.
Yeah, it's cosplay the movie.
Yeah, it's just like a bunch of cosplayers in little outfits, and you can't suspend your disbelief at all while watching the film. And I pride myself on that. So I mean, there's so much that you could rip apart with this movie, but we'll probably rip it apart more later when it's on your guys' list. But yeah, just too many overly serious moments, and they didn't set it up and execute it well. Is my biggest problem with it.
I'm not going to say anything because
Yep.
it's on my list, but it's
on my list too.
Yeah.
Just roll right along.
It's not number 5 though. My number 5 is I own this on Blu-ray, and I own it on Blu-ray is because it's a train wreck, and I love a good train wreck, and it's Terra Formars. You like this one?
No, this is lower on my freaking list, man.
Oh,
It's
it's
lower on my
lower
list
on
too.
your list. Lower on
It's
your
lower
list.
on my-
Okay, this is my number 5 because I think Um, wow. It's something. This got an Arrow Blu-ray release. So this sits on my shelf next to the other Miike Arrow releases like you know, uh, Itchy the Killer and
Yeah, I think
Audition
Audition,
and
yeah.
all of those and what else have I got? The Black Triad Society, like that
Mm-hmm.
trilogy. They've done a lot of his stuff. And for some reason they did a Blu-ray version of this and I saw it in the store. We have a store in Brisbane that does like import stuff. And I saw it on the shelf and it was $30 and I went, "You know what? I'm going to buy this." I know, right? But I watched this movie as a how the fuck did you screw this up? The cast of this thing is incredible. Like you can't deny that this is one of the best. Like the cast
Hmm.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like the Avengers of Japanese cinema all
Hmm.
starring in this movie, and somehow with Miike behind the camera, they fucked it up. They screw up everything about this. Is just makes you go, why? Why is this happening right now? Why are you stopping the film to explain a cockroach to me, and how this certain cockroach from Africa is now the blood is in this it's shockingly bad. Like this should be taught in school. Like how does this happen? I want to know how this. There needs to be like a making of documentary to explain how they made a movie so bad with the resources that they had, the cast that they have, everything. Like it's shocking. And this is only number 5 on my list, guys. I'm just saying. So, do you want to hold back from when we get a
Oh,
bit
I'll
All
have some
back.
some
closer?
things to say about this one for
Yeah,
later.
I can tell. So, what's your number 5, Ray?
All right, mine isn't as how do you say it? It's a kind of small. It's a low budget film. I think the anime has its fan base. Uh, I know the fan base tends to call it School Live, but I call it
Oh,
School
yes.
Live. Uh, I've seen a few episodes of the anime, and it's fun. It's just really difficult to translate into live action, and especially with the low budget that they did, it just came off as like one of those cheap, straight to DVD quality types of films, like even just the picture quality, and also the set design, the makeup, just everything was just pretty bad. Like, you had like these actresses who are trying to make a name for themselves, so you know they did their best. I don't want to like I don't want to what's the word? I don't want to hate too hard on the
Mm-hmm.
actresses just trying to get started,
Yeah.
but just their performances aside, just the production value, just the way it interpreted the source material, because the source material is really unique. It's really interesting. It just wasn't dark enough. It wasn't like he had a really cool and dark concept that they tried to sugarcoat in the live action,
Mm.
and in the end it turned out just being really flat. And yeah, and the reason why you look at the title and it's called you'll hear 99% of the fans call it School Live, but I call it
Mm.
School Live is because the whole premise, well, first of all, that's what the Japanese title translates to, is living at school.
Yeah.
And it's because they're trapped in a school when the zombie apocalypse is happening around them. And the whole premise is that they're just trying to survive while their whole everything is destroyed, but they're part of this gardening club, so they know how to grow their own foods and they know how to survive at school. They're just trying to stay, like they have parts of the school blockaded off so that they can hide from the zombies. And one of the girls, she's trapped in the most interesting character in the anime is like trapped in this delusion. Like she thinks like her teacher and all her friends are still alive, but
Still
everyone's
alive,
actually
yeah.
zombies and
Mm.
dead. But so in the anime, the way they interpreted that was really interesting. But in the movie, it was like kind of half-hearted. They could have went a lot further with it. But that was like the most. She should have been the most interesting uh part of the story, but because they didn't go all the way with it, as with a lot of parts of the movie, it turned out to be a really, really flat experience. But yeah, that's my number 5.
Yeah, I've seen this one. I agree. It's bad.
I have
Yeah,
not seen this one.
as you were explaining it, I'm like, is this the one where the girl, like, in her head, she thinks when I first watched it, I was like, are these like make-believe friends or something? And then it turns out, yeah, like they're actually dead or whatever, or zombies. And it's just, yeah, everything you said, I agree with. It's not good. Maybe if it had a bigger budget, I don't know, and a different script and a different director. I mean, I guess the cast is only good as the director. Um,
Sounds like a
but
similar premise to All of Us Are Dead, that K-drama that was on Netflix. That was pretty good. Because they're all
I've not
trapped in the
watched that.
school the whole time with the zombies.
Okay.
Maybe they
Yeah,
copied it.
potentially. Yeah, I mean, the zombie trope
Yeah,
is, what are you going to do with that? Everything's been done, really. So,
yeah. All right, so that was your number 5, right? So now we're on number 4s.
Mhm.
This is another, I gotta go horror again. And this one really irritated me as well. Now that again, it's a part of the franchise a lot of people don't like, and I can understand. I can understand why. And this is in the Tomy franchise. All right. Based on the Junji Ito manga series, which I actually have read the manga of this one. Pretty interesting. And I've been reading more of Ito's stuff. Really good stuff. I like a lot of his stuff. So this movie specifically is Tomie versus Tomie from 2007, which is like the 10th or 9th or something installment of the Tomie franchise, which historically none of the films are great.
Mhm.
A lot of them have pacing problems, but the concept of just like the girl who just cannot die and she doesn't kill anybody. Everyone kills each other over their like desire for her, and then they kill her, and then she
Mhm.
regenerates again. And it's such a
Mhm.
cool premise.
Mhm.
And I do get a little bit of mileage out of some of the movies when I rewatch them, even though they have pacing issues. But this Tomie versus Tomie flick, when it came out, there was at least a dozen fake reviews online saying that it was good. Like a legit, oh, this is like definitely the best of the franchise, yada yada. And they started detailing out scenes and stuff. And then I ended up watching it like streaming on some website. I don't remember which one. And I was like, all these reviews were fake. And this movie's atrocious. So that added to my frustrations, you know? And it's just, I have notes here, but I don't even like remember much of this. Has like the same problems of a lot of the other films, except you get none of the creepiness, none of the atmosphere. It's too poorly acted Tomies that like it's like a no budget flick too. I can't even talk about this anymore. It's horrible. Even if people like some of the previous Tomie films, that I can't imagine anybody sitting through this.
this is just one of those franchises I, yeah, I forget how many movies
Mhm.
are involved in it because I lost count, and I've not seen this one. So,
Have you
Yeah.
watched any of the movies or do you remember any of them?
oh, I think I liked the third one,
Okay.
but that's just me going off very old memory.
That may
So
have been the one
the
directed
Junji,
by Shimitsu, I think, maybe.
it might have, maybe it's that one, but it's
I
one of
can't.
those things where I've watched maybe 4 or 5 of them, and
Yeah.
none of them have really stuck with me.
Yeah.
So there's moments now that we're talking about it that I'm remembering certain scenes, but then I'm like, am I misremembering that? And it's from another like low budget, you know, that type of movie. Yeah,
Are you
I've not
familiar
seen
with this
some.
franchise at all, Ray? The live action films?
Yeah, like I've seen only the first two because I think after that I just called it quits.
Yeah.
Like I think first one came off as some kind of, well, it just in my interpretation came off to me as like some kind of a horror art house flick.
Hmm.
Uh, and I'm not sure if my interpretation was correct, but the premise was interesting. And Junji Ito is one of those names that you just associate with Japanese horror mangas, and I just needed to check it out. And then I was like, the first one's all right, caught on streaming, and then second was like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna keep following this. So how many movies? Nah,
Yeah.
nah. Yeah.
It's a
I'm gonna
premise I
stop.
think could be awesome if you just did it, if you really focused on the script, took some stuff from the manga, and really kind of it could be an awesome movie. But I don't know
Yeah,
if anybody will ever do
fresh,
it.
fresh for a remake. They just need a bit more money and
I would be fine with a remake with this.
yeah, right. Cool. Well, my number four, I'm cheating a bit here. I'm including a South Korean film. Now, I know I'm probably not allowed to do that.
Ah, go ahead.
But it's one of those things I don't know when I'll get a chance to talk about this film because when you think about Korean cinema, you don't really think of manga adaptations, really. Like, obviously, there's Old Boy,
Hmm.
but I would argue that as someone who's read the Old Boy manga, the film is way better.
Way better.
Than the
Way better.
manga. Way, 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 way better.
Way better.
Where this one's kind of the opposite. This is based on I think it was 1999 the animated film came out, and it's based on a franchise, a Japanese franchise. But it's been going since like I think
I know
the
what it is
80s,
now.
maybe the late 70s. You know what it is. Directed by arguably one of the best Korean directors in history. This is The Wolf Brigade, which was a Netflix thing in like
Ah,
2018, if I'm
this is
I think.
Jinro.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
Jinro.
yeah, they did a Kim Ji-woon uh did a Korean remake and he made a bloated mess and didn't understand. Which this blows my mind. Like apparently this was a passion project for him. And it's like you watch the Korean version of the film or the live action version of the anime and you're just like, how did you interpret that way? Um, it does not work at all. I honestly think it's one of the best anime films ever,
Mm-hmm.
just
Yeah.
because of how adult it is and uh, the way it does that kind of like revisionist history thing. It's great, but when you translate that to Korea and try to, I don't know, make it fit with Korean politics a bit more and Korean history, it just doesn't have the same effect. I don't know.
Mm.
You've definitely seen this one, Eric.
Yeah, I mean it's just it's almost like when Michael Mann went from Collateral to Miami Vice, just like
Yeah,
dropped off a cliff, and you're like
yeah,
sitting there like, how did this happen? Like that's
yeah.
how it was. Because even though Kim did the Schwarzenegger movie, it's not that bad. You know what I mean? Like
No,
it's hmm?
it's trashy fun.
Yeah, and then he came back with the uh that espionage film, Age of Shadows, which is good. So, it's like, okay, he's back, he's recovering, kind of like how uh, Bong recovered with Parasite after making Okja. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah,
okay, you're starting to recover again. And then this movie comes out, and I'm like, what? I just don't understand it, like how that
yeah.
happened. And it's, and you have a pretty good cast here. I mean, your favorite actor's in it, but my one of my favorite actresses is in it too. And so you have the talent there. The production values are fine. The script is just
Mm,
terrible. I mean,
yeah. It's
that's what it is. It's just boring.
really badly paced film as
Mm.
well, and it's like 2.5 hours, and you're like, how did you make this so bloated that it made me bored?
And
Because
I
the
haven't,
production design is good, like the
yeah,
design of like the armor and stuff. It's like, oh wow, that's better than it's ever looked in any of the live action Japanese versions. But and obviously they're not based on that. Like we could do a whole video on that franchise, and I'm sure you have at some point, haven't you, Eric? You've spoken about.
the live action films.
Yeah, well what didn't they do Japanese like TV movies and stuff
Yeah,
based
there's
on
like
any.
three of them from, oh my goodness. I can't remember the director's name off the top of my head. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
uh,
positive you've covered these at some point.
yeah, I probably talked about them.
Yeah. Anyway, have you seen the South Korean live action remake, Ray? It was a Netflix.
Right. I saw it and I just didn't want to watch it just because I like the anime so much. I don't know. It's just one of those things that it's kind of like what is it? My appreciation for the anime repelled me from watching
Yeah.
this. I don't know. I think also probably I had some other things I wanted to watch, but I never seen it. I didn't even realize there were other live actions to this anime as well. I didn't even know that.
Oh
Yeah.
I
yeah,
only
there's a
know.
Oh,
whole
you know
there's a
what? It
whole
was Mamoto
mythos.
Oshii directed it, the guy who did
Yes.
Ghost in the Shell. And I
Yes.
covered
Yeah,
it in my top list of Mamoto Oshii, is when I
That's
talked
what.
about
Momonosuke,
these.
he's the original author, isn't he?
Yeah.
Of the
Is he?
manga, right? Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
Possibly.
pretty sure.
or anime. He's. I know he was involved in the writing. Um, yeah, I know
Yeah, he made
Momono.
like 3 movies, live action, very low budget,
Yeah.
very art house.
Mm,
But
Yeah.
I think 2 of the 3 are actually pretty interesting.
okay,
So
okay.
if you want some, but don't expect like, you know, the
It's
anime.
still not the anime, no.
Yeah.
But they're still better than the Korean
Oh
version.
yeah, they're more interesting for sure.
But
Oh,
the reason why this is at number 4 is again the talent behind the film.
Yeah.
And like perfect analogy. It's yeah, Michael Mann coming off of a great film like Collateral and then doing Miami Vice, and you're like, how did this happen? Um, but anyway, that's my number 4. What's your number 4, eh?
hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's talk about Full Metal Alchemist a little more, shall we?
Hey, Ben. I'd
So,
love to talk about the entire trilogy, but I'm on my own here, apparently.
Yeah.
yeah, I have not seen the second or third one, even though they're readily available on Netflix. Just out of pure spite of the first. I paid to watch the first movie in the theaters, regretted it. Because I love that. I haven't read the manga, but I've seen both anime.
Mm,
I like the second anime a lot more, just because
okay.
it has a
Yeah,
more completed story
I,
and a more
yeah,
expanded world.
Okay.
I
Uh,
agree.
um, a lot of the key points. First of all, it suffers from that syndrome that happens with a lot of live actions that try to like that cover really expansive anime manga with a lot of lore in it, where they try to cram it into 2 hours and try to make a comprehensive movie. They did not do that, and on top of that, they kind of screwed up with the ending. They replaced some major characters, and they try to make an original ending just to fit this movie's narrative, and it just didn't work. Like none of it worked. I don't like. I'm not a fan of the main actor at all.
Oh, thank God you said that, because I hate his face.
I don't like him
There's
at
not
all.
there's not many actors that I just dislike because of how they look,
Yeah.
and he's one of them.
He's
See that guy's face and I go, nah, I'm out.
Let me just
Uh,
look through this
That's
guy's
really
filmography
horrible of
real
me to
quick.
say.
No, I'm 100% on you with oh yeah, Ryosuke Yamada. I didn't like him in an Assassination Classroom, neither of them.
He
Um
he was in one of the worst movies I saw either last year or this year. What to Do with Dead Kaiju?
Oh, that
Maybe
was
one of the worst,
bad.
maybe one of the
uh
worst Japanese films I've ever seen in
I
my
was kind of
life.
I
looking
heard
forward to that.
Oh,
I heard it
dude,
was pretty bad.
it's fucking bad, like proper bad. Like if it was based on a manga, it'd be in this list. That's how bad it is.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
like anything I've seen him. Well, I heard I haven't seen it yet, but I heard The Miracles of the Namiya General Store was pretty all right, but he's a leading role in it, but everything else I've seen him in I just can't get into it, man. Like I just don't like his acting. It's like he doesn't know how to pull out the right kind of emotion for the scene, and
Yeah.
and it's a shame because the staff around him was decent. Like I like Dean Fujioka, the guy who plays Mustang. Like I think overall he's just a cool dude, and he's a singer too. Really cool voice. The guy who plays uh Hughes, Ryuta Sato. He's like one of the most charismatic actors in Japanese cinema. But then they changed like they took out the Führer from
Yeah.
the end, changed into like this generic like bad guy general dude, and changed the kind of they changed the lore of the show, and I don't know, like it just was the end product was not satisfying, and I regretted watching it in the movie theater. Like immediately. I was like, man, that's the last time I went to watch anything. And then they announced 2 and 3. I was like, it's like, they announced McKenna, who I really like, as Scar. I'm like, that's not going to draw me to watch this movie. I like McKenna, but he's not going to fool me. They're not going to fool me twice. Anyway, yeah, that's my number 4.
I really like him too. I was surprised at how much I like what I've watched him in a lot of things now. And, he's no Sonny Chiba. He's not his father, but he's actually really quite good and charismatic. So
Yeah. Oh yeah.
but he's probably the one saving grace of the second and third film, but that's not saying much.
And he's a charismatic, like McKenna is a charismatic actor.
He's
I
charismatic.
think,
He's
and
handsome. He's got
he has
everything.
range. He's got a lot of range too. Like he can be a badass, like in One Piece. He can be like the kind of nice dude if you seen the Chihaya series. Like he's really good at that one. Those movies too. I haven't seen Saint Seiya yet, but that was pretty bad.
Oh, that's if that was if we weren't, I don't even know if is that technically a Japanese film?
It's Hollywood. It's Hollywood.
Are you sure? Are you sure it's not a co-production between a bunch?
I'm pretty sure it's 100%
It's
US, but let
100%
me just.
US. I've
I'm
got a feeling
pretty.
it's like 20 different production companies. I've watched it. It's called Knights of the Zodiac
No, it's
here.
of the Zodiac. Yeah, yeah.
It's one of the it's again
Oh,
phenomenal
okay.
train
It's
wreck of a film.
apparently, according to Wikipedia, it is a joint venture between US and Japanese studios.
There you go. So maybe it should be on this list.
Maybe
Oh,
I
where do I
haven't
put
seen
it
it.
though?
Close to the bottom, I assume.
It's bad. Oh yeah, but you need to kind of watch it to understand. It's another kind of Terra Formars where you watch it and you're like, what is this? It's such a mess. But I kind of liked it because of how it was one of those. This is terrible, but I'm enjoying the train wreck. But again, objectively a terrible film. But he can't save that film. You've got people like him and Mark Dacascos and Sean Bean, and they cannot save that film.
Wow.
Yeah, it's something. You need to check it out if you haven't. If you can understand what's happening, please let me know because I'd love to know what actually happens.
I do want to check it out as a fan of the anime. I do want to check it out one of these days, but
Yeah. I've got a friend, a guy I used to work with. He collects the figures, like he
yeah,
imports them from Japan because it's his favorite thing of all time, and he's not aware that this film exists. And I don't know. I've thought about it as a joke if I just buy the Blu-ray and like gift it to him and say, "Hey, I saw this and thought of you," but I don't know. I don't think I should do that to him. I'd be a very terrible friend if I did such a thing.
it might be he might be taking it as an insult.
I think he's better off not knowing that the film exists. And I think they called it Knights of the Zodiac because they knew that they had a turkey on their hands. And if they
It's
actually
also,
called it Saint Seiya, they'd be screwed.
I think Knights of the Zodiac was the international release outside of Japan, because then in the US it was called Knights of the
Oh,
Zodiac.
right. Was it? Okay.
Yeah, like the original anime. Like even like I know it was a huge hit like in Mexico. I had a lot of Mexican friends who liked it, and they
Oh,
knew it as
yeah.
Knights
South
of the
America.
Zodiac.
Love
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right.
All right, Eric.
I think we're in the top 3 now, right?
Top three.
I got a
Top
heavy
three, bottom 3.
Yeah, bottom 3. I got a heavy hitter for you guys. Real heavy hitter. I'm going with Devilman from 2004.
Score! My number 3 as well.
Yeah.
And I can prove it. I can prove it because I wrote it down. I don't want to like spoil my things, but I don't know if you can see Devilman.
Devilman, yeah.
Holy
Oh
hell, dude.
man, what a crap movie. I remember
Woo!
watching this one. Oh, I got it. I was kind of happy because it was I used to get this like DVD mail service, kind of like Netflix used to be, but it was called Cineflix or eHit. No, it was eHit, and they would specifically focus on Asian movies. So I'd get a bunch of them in the mail that I couldn't get on Netflix. So this is one of the ones that came in the mail. I'm like, Devilman. I'm like, okay. And at this point, I had not seen. At this point, I've seen a few of the anime movies or OVAs, and I do enjoy those quite a bit, even though they're quite inappropriate at times.
Hmm.
But I saw this movie first without any knowledge of like its source material, and man, is it bad. I mean, it's just the performances in this are really, really awful. And the only scene in the movie I liked is, and I do remember it to the film's credit, there's like a schoolgirl that kills some security guards with like a sword and like a sword and something else, chainsaw or machine gun. And it's like a little 1 minute scene, and I enjoyed it. But the rest of the movie is just a complete disaster. You do get a very young
Yeah.
Shota Somatani in this. I have in my notes. I must have looked that
Yeah.
up.
Was
But
he in
it's
there?
Yeah, he's like the little boy in it. There's like he's like 10 in the film.
yeah.
Oh my god, I don't even remember
But it's
that.
just 2 hours of just misery and suffering. I really don't like this movie at all.
Yeah, I hate this film, and I don't say that very often. It's like the way this thing is edited, like they put it in a blender. The, like when I was watching the end credits, I was waiting to see like editor blender. Like that's how bad it was. I saw this probably like this has got to be almost 20 years old at this point. This film.
2004.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How I saw this similar thing DVD in Australia in the late 90s. I think it was from like maybe 99, 2000 up until about 2007, 2008. And you might own some of these DVDs if you've ever imported them, not just, YouTube, but people watching. We had a label in Australia called Eastern Eye that put out a lot of Japanese films, a lot of Southeast Asian films, but mainly like, Japan, Hong Kong, uh, but a lot of their label was Japan. And that's how I bought a lot of films because they'd come out on DVD and it'd get an Eastern Eye release and you'd be like, oh, okay, this is the new Eastern Eye release. I'll buy this because I love Asian cinema. And I remember watching it back then and thinking, and I had no knowledge of what Devilman was. And now that I do, I rewatched this recently because we were doing this podcast, just because I've watched a lot of I watched the Netflix show, obviously. Um, that's fantastic, but like Erik said, it's a little bit inappropriate here and there. I wouldn't be recommending it to anyone under the age of 18, that's for sure. Um, but yeah, watching it after understanding like the source material a bit better, like wow. Uh, obviously the effects do not hold up because it's a 20-year-old Japanese film and it's early 2000s CGI, which those two things don't mix. But yeah, Devilman's something. I wouldn't recommend it actually. I wouldn't even recommend this as like Knights of the Zodiac. I recommend as a like check that out to see just how bad it is. But
Mm-hmm.
Devilman is so bad that now I'm thinking I should have put this at number one now that we're talking about it.
It's a contender, my friend.
It's up there. Yeah, it's terrible. And anyone who says like Alita Battle Angel or Ghost in the Shell are bad anime adaptations, go watch Devilman, then come back to me, please. And then we'll have the conversation. But unless you've seen Devilman, you cannot say that those films are bad. Because, yeah, this is something. I'm assuming you've not seen this, Ray?
I have seen it and it's lower in my
Oh,
list.
you have? Oh, oh,
Oh
oh, wow.
man.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
what? You've got a great poker face, man, because I just
I
assumed like
know,
from that
yeah.
reaction, because you just like Erik
You
and I are
said
getting
it.
visibly angry at this film,
Yeah.
and you're just sitting there all stoic,
Yeah.
like face, like, all right,
Four aces. Yeah.
Uh,
yeah,
uh,
right. So what's
Yeah.
your number three then?
okay, this is kind of it's not this what didn't hit a theatrical release. This is a TV movie. I think it was two consecutive episodes, but they generalize it as a TV movie based on one of my favorite anime and manga growing up as a kid. I think I first watched it when I was in elementary school. Ranma One Half.
Mm.
I don't know, guys, if you guys have
Right.
seen the anime or manga or even seen this TV movie, but it's same author as Inuyasha,
Ooh.
Rumiko Takahashi. It's very old school. It's like one of those. I'm not sure if it was the trendsetter, but it was one of those like one guy and hella girls after him kind of stories, but it was in a martial arts setting. Are you guys familiar with the source material at all?
No.
I've heard of it. I've heard of it. I've
Okay,
not read it
so
though.
so it's a very over the top, and that's what makes it work as an anime. So what happens is there's this guy. His name is Ranma, right? And he and his dad are like really great like martial artists. And it turns out that Ranma's dad had made an arrangement with one of his old martial arts buddies to so that Ranma gets engaged to his friend's daughter Akane, right? And so they meet each other. Akane is a tomboy who doesn't want to get married. And they have they have that like that kind of tropey anime relationship where they hate each other first, but then the tension as the story goes along, they tend to warm up to each other, but they still hate each other, still at each other's throats. And you throw one monkey wrench is that there's along the way the dad has made various promises to other guys so that way that his son gets engaged to their daughters, so just so he can make some money or just for some kind of random favor. Like along the way, he's like, yeah, you guys we'll make our kids get married in the future. He's making all these deals, right? So that's one of the factors of chaos. Another factor of chaos is that um, the main background, the main foundation of the story is that there's everyone has at least gone to China at one point, and there's these cursed hot springs. And if you fall into one of the springs, you take the form of like there's a death associated with each of these hot springs, and then so you get cursed with that spirit, if you will. So Rama falls into one of the hot springs. So whenever he gets splashed with cold water, he gets turned into a girl. So basically, and then whenever his dad gets splashed with cold water, he gets turned into a panda. So the way they get turned back is they get splashed with hot water. So there are multiple characters like this throughout the story, and that just adds to the chaos. That's what makes it a whole lot of fun. It's like chaotic, it's energetic. The romantic like will they won't they is real. It just, in both the manga and anime form. The thing is with a TV movie. First of all, a
Mm.
TV movie
Yeah.
less an hour long. What are you going to accomplish? You have like I'm not sure how long the anime and manga ran, but I know God, there was at least I owned like about 5 seasons on DVD, 6 seasons
Wow.
maybe. It might have been 8 seasons. I can't even remember off the top of my head. But so I can't remember exactly how much of the source material they tried to squeeze in. But I know they tried to squeeze in a lot. But it's a TV movie uh runtime with a TV movie budget, trying to capture this kind of chaos. Granted, the cast was okay. Um, they had a decent cast. It's just that everything else was working against them, and it's pretty bad. Especially because like Ramen House was probably the very first anime I've got into as a kid, so that was like the highest. Uh, I had the highest kind of expectations on any kind of adaptation
Mm.
for this. It's also another reason why I expect Yu Yu Hakusho live action to fail, but because Yu Yu Hakusho is like that to me. The anime sorry, the live action series is coming up on Netflix this month, right?
Mm.
And I saw the trailer for that, and it looks pretty. I don't know, it looks really different from what I remember. But this one was like, not they took liberty, they cut corners, they took a lot of liberties to squeeze everything into a story. You know, even for the amount of source material they try to cover into the runtime, it was still kind of incomplete. Yeah, Rambo 1/2.
Wow.
What year was the live action?
Let me do a quick check. Rambo
Because
one
I'm
half
trying.
movie,
I was like, I'm
2011,
wondering.
Hmm.
Okay.
2011. But the anime has been a big thing since like the mid to
Like
late
80s or
80s, I think.
something. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I'm just having a little look by clicking on things, and yeah, okay. Yeah,
It's
this
one of those
looks like
shows. If you're like, it's definitely the anime is definitely a product of its time. I don't think half the jokes would land in today's culture, but if you grew up with anime in the 80s and 90s, I think it'll resonate.
Oh, all right. I should check it out then.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It was like Inuyasha before Inuyasha,
Hmm.
basically.
okay.
Like it had, yeah, I don't think there was any other, there are many, I don't think there are as many anime that had like the one guy and all these girls, like, especially one guy betrothed to so many girls who either love him or hate him or want to kill him or both, it was just a whole lot of chaos, and that's what made it a lot of fun.
Cool.
All right. My number two now. So I'm going with Terra Formars.
Okay.
Number two. That's number two. All right. So,
Number
but
two
yeah,
appropriate.
yeah, yeah. And we already talked about some of these things here, but I think the effects for the cockroach dudes were actually decent, but man, the makeup effects in this movie were horrible. Anytime they did like the human cockroach hybrids and they had like the weird makeup, it looked like no one spent any time on like the
Yeah, it's
makeup or any of the physical
uh,
effects.
like Halloween store decorations
Yeah,
super glued to somebody's face.
yeah, exactly. Um, what else here? I got notes. Oh yeah, the cockroach monsters themselves, they could have been pretty good because they do look kind of intimidating. Like if I was thrown in a planet with those things, I wouldn't want to get attacked. But then they don't really amount to much in terms of like the action and stuff. Everything's real lame and cartoonish and just kind of stupid. Um, Character development is non-existent. I don't care about what happens in the movie, and all the actors are still trying to act cool the whole time. But yeah, I mean, there's just this is in my bottom two Miike films as well, and he's made a lot of movies. So yeah, this is my number two. I think it's a pretty strong choice for a number two.
Mhm.
Oh yeah. Well, I've already spoken about this one. Do you need to say anything, Ray, or is this
It's my number two.
it's your
If
number
I,
two? Perfect.
it's my number
Perfect
two.
segue. So we can
Yeah.
come back to me. Let's go to you.
We're thinking. I like
Okay.
the cross here. We're thinking alike.
So like, I have a story to tell about Terraformers. So as all of you have already pointed out, there's a stellar cast. And Mike was the director. That was enough for me to buy a ticket. I saw it in the cinemas. I was like, what the? Did I just what am I think I had what's the word? What's the term for it? Where you're kind of like, this is before I realized how far Mike had fallen off from like the days when he made those, Itchy the Killer and Audition, all those movies I love, right? I was just like, oh, Mike, you have all these casts. Like, some of my main draws were Hideaki Ito,
Mm.
and Kane
Of
Kosugi for
course.
sure. For sure, Kane
Mm.
Kosugi was a big draw for me. Uh, so I went on saw it, and I was like, I don't know, is this is like, first of all, CGI the CGI was kind of wonky, but I figured Japanese budgets were
Yeah.
never all that high to begin with, so I kind of forgave that. But the story just kind of led to nowhere. I don't know, like, and so I found out later from one of my friends who read the manga that the reason why he watched the live action when it came to home video, and I would guess the manga had a lot to do more with like international conflicts. I think the cast wasn't specifically all Japanese. I think there were more countries involved in the main cast.
Another
So this
Attack
one,
on Titan situation, basically.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know how much how accurate I'm recalling this conversation, but he did mention that it wasn't just Japan trying to, like, in the main story, you have all these different culture clashes too going on at the same
Yeah.
time, and that was definitely missing from the story.
It would
What
make
got me
more.
it's
It would,
what's that?
sorry, right? It would make more, it makes more sense, like in my head, like now that you're saying this, like if they're sending a crew of people to Mars to colonize Mars or whatever the hell's going on, it would make more sense for that to be an international group of
Mhm.
people.
Yeah.
So sorry to interject.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, and I think the moment I was okay with it, and then the moment when they were building up Kane Kosugi's character, I love Kane Kosugi. He's like, ever since I saw him in like, he was in one of the Japanese Power Ranger series. That's when I first saw him. But like always like seeing him. And he was in Godzilla Final Wars too, right? Um, but like, I was like, oh, dude, it's King Kosugi. He's gonna do some dope ass martial arts scenes, right? They build his character up. He's the only one dressed in like these rags. And they're like, oh, that's that guy. He's like a killer or whatever, right? He shows up right in front of like the cockroach. He just gets slow, just, just gets downed. Like it's like, huh? Was that supposed to be it? Is he supposed to be like? Was that what's all that buildup was for? So like, okay, like, anyways, I had to watch it a second time in the theaters to be.
Oh no.
And the reason why is
So
because
between us, we've given this movie how much money? I gave it $30.
I
How much?
well
How much? If
I
you've seen it twice in the cinema, how much did you spend?
probably total of 4,000 yen. So how much? I'm not sure how much it equates to.
That's
Oh, and
probably about
nowadays it's like $3.
I know, right? At the time, it was probably like it was like at the time when I saw it, I think it was pretty. It was almost 1 to 1 to the dollar.
Yeah.
1 to 1,
Almost.
probably about.
Yeah,
So yeah,
almost.
probably about
But
$40.
the reason I saw it the second time is because you remember Jason, the guy who I did
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
the
yeah, of
film. Yeah,
course.
yeah.
Yes.
So he visited me and he wanted to watch a movie in the theater. So like, well, there's this movie, I love
Wow.
Takashi Miike. I'm like, I don't, okay, we can watch it. It's like there wasn't anything else playing in the theater at the time, so
Oh no.
yeah. So I slept through it actually the second time. Like I woke up, I was like, okay, it's almost done. What?
Wow.
It's like I just got so bored watching it the second time for the same reason. But yeah,
The
it
effects in
pains
the
me in
film,
my heart.
particularly the death. So it's very it's almost like Looney Tunes
Hmm.
level of, you know, people getting smacked around and stuff. You're like,
The guy who like blows the fire out of his mouth, he's like,
yeah, yeah. It's it's something. Like I said, it's worth. I do you recommend people that love Miike films watch this just to
If
see
they
what?
if they want to see his trajectory as a movie director, I think I don't know. What was the last movie I saw from him was First Love, and I actually enjoyed that movie.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, that
First
was
So
Love.
he
good.
could,
That was
he,
good. Yeah.
yeah, it could be like, it could be a good study of like, just the kind of career path he's taken. You start off right here, kind of shaky, and then kind of on the rise again.
It's weird
It's
because he's done so many manga adaptations now. Like he's done
exactly.
a shitload, and a lot of them tend to be pretty good or just, okay or inoffensive. But
Mm-hmm.
then for some reason with this one, I th- I suspect that this is an Adam Sandler movie. You know the
Mm.
theory that Adam Sandler gets money and then he just takes his friends on
It's on
vacation and
Yeah.
vacation. Yeah.
they all just make he gets like, $50 million and he only spends like 2 million on actually making the film and gives the rest of the money to his friends and himself. That's what I suspect happened here.
Well, I mean, I
I
would
wouldn't
do
be
it. I mean, they got a
surprised.
free trip to
Yeah.
Mars out of it.
Well, a green screen somewhere, a shed in Tokyo. But you know, if it was it has to be a cash grab job. Like they're
Yeah.
just paying bills.
Oh
Like
yeah, it has to be.
because when
Absolutely.
he's done, like that's the thing. It's like auditions based on like a novel, but Ichi the Killer, based on a manga. The Crows films based on a manga. As the Gods Will, based on a
Mm-hmm.
manga.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Hmm.
Blade of the Immortal, based on a manga. All those films are good.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like so, he can
Hmm.
make a good adaptation. He just decided not to with this. Maybe he thought the source material was shit. Who
Maybe.
knows? Um, but my number two, we've already kind of spoken about it, is Lupin the Third.
Wow,
So
this
yeah,
high.
yeah, this
This
high. I, because I actually like the director's done some interesting films. Like he's had a fascinating career when you think about it.
Yeah, he just stopped caring too, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I follow him on Instagram and he seems quite passionate about certain
Hmm.
films. Like he did he's done this weird thing where he's done American films and then he goes back to Japan to do stuff and his filmography's all over the shop. But when he was younger, like I would watch anything by this guy.
Yeah, me
Like
too.
you know.
Mm.
And then he got Final. Do you think it all changed when he did Final Wars?
Yeah, he did an interview. I remember I haven't seen it in 20 years, but I
Right.
distinctly remember this interview. And they were asking him, "What are you going to do next?" And he's like, "Well, I directed a Godzilla movie. What's there to do now?" And he just had like that type of ad. I'm like, "All right,
Right.
dude."
So it's kind of like I've given up already.
That's the
Um,
impression I got, but
I don't know. I
this
didn't
is
mind Midnight Meat Train. I thought that was an
yeah, you're
okay
right. Midnight
film.
Return,
I
but
like
that was good.
I like that one too. I like that one too.
Yeah. So again, but it's like I don't know. The thing is with Lupin the Third, it's like I think it's such an iconic character, and I think the casting was wrong for,
Hmm.
for Lupin. Um, yeah, it's just a hodgepodge. Like, hey, we're in France, and now we're here, and then we're doing this and that, and I don't know. I just didn't. It never gelled well with me, and it just felt like uh nobody really cared.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't think he was not the right director to. I don't think that's a thing you can adapt into live action. Like they
Yeah,
did
Mm.
that
it's
3D animated film recently, and that wasn't too bad.
yeah.
I think you can get away with that, but it's just one of the yeah, it's just not adaptable. And if you're going to adapt it, they chose the wrong person to do it, and they chose the wrong cast, in my opinion. And they chose the wrong story. It's just a hodgepodge of crap. Like,
Yeah.
Didn't it's an original, well, I guess every Lupin story and stuff, it's an original story no matter what
yeah,
medium, right? Um Branching off topic a little bit. Yeah, the 3D animated movie uh directed by
Oh,
Takahashi,
yeah.
yeah.
Godzilla minus
Godzilla
one.
minus one. He's done
Yeah,
some good stuff.
he's done
I
Godzilla
like
minus one.
I like the Parasite films. I
I do
liked
too.
what was the sci-fi thing he did?
Returner
Um,
from
No,
way back in the day.
the Matrix ripoff, yeah,
Yeah.
from 20 odd years ago. No, the one where it's kind of like the Japanese Star Warsy type thing. Um, what was it? Is it Space Battleship Yamamoto or
Oh,
something
Oh,
okay.
like that? Was
yeah,
that
yeah,
him
yeah,
as
yeah.
well?
Uh,
I thought that film was okay, but I think the final act, the CGI gets a bit too
Yeah.
shit looking.
that was him. That was him. Yeah, that was him.
Yeah, I
That was.
thought, yeah. A lot of his films, he did Eternal Zero, and he's done
Mm-hmm.
a lot of when he was announced, uh, when it was announced that he was doing a post like World War II Japanese Godzilla film, I was like, is he going to do a kamikaze pilot thing? And he did. So, because he's done a few films, like he did Eternal
Mm-hmm.
Zero, and he did that other one. Was it War of
Archi-
Archimedes
Great
or
War
That
of
was a
something?
good
Archimedes.
movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was a good movie too. But so he has that. He's got a background in war films, and he
Hmm.
did a. There was a third one that he did. I can't remember what was
Well,
something
there's
that had to
always.
go to the Middle East or something for oil. What was that one called? Was that him? I don't know. I can't remember the title of it. Um,
I'm just on this
I'd have to
page
look.
right now. Well, there was the one where it was called
Fueled.
Fuel.
Fueled. That's it. It was about
Yeah.
oil or something, right? Yeah.
I should
Uh,
watch that. I love Junichi Okada. Love the guy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
yeah,
It's so
yeah.
good.
It looks like he's an oil tycoon or something like
Oh,
that.
I should watch that one.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So a lot of if you watch his filmography, I know we're going off topic. We're talking about Godzilla minus one, which I could talk
Yeah.
about all day. Um, yeah. If you look at his filmography, I think he uses a lot of stuff from his other films, and he's kind of
Hmm.
used that to perfection in Godzilla minus one. But that's how much we don't want to talk
Yeah,
about Lupin the Third. We're talking
Yeah.
yeah.
about
But
this, but that's my number two.
yeah. going off of Lupin on the Third again. This year they released a crossover. You remember the old anime Cat's Eye back in the day?
That's
Pretty retro. It's about spy girls, basically. They had Lupin has done anime crossovers with Detective Conan, right?
Yes, yeah, I know those ones. Yeah, so it's a
Yeah,
similar
so
thing.
this year they released a crossover with Cat's Eye, and it's pretty damn good. I enjoy it a lot. So I know it's available on Hulu here. I'm not sure about internationally, but it has English subtitles, so I assume it's available internationally somewhere. But it's on Hulu in Japan. But if you guys have a chance to watch it, definitely recommend it.
All right.
While you're there, Ray, what's your number 2?
It was
Oh wait, no, it was Terraformars.
Terra
Oh, that's right,
Formars.
Terra
Terraformars,
Formars.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
sorry. So we're up to number 1 now. Right.
Number one.
Yeah. I'm confident
Cool.
in this one. It's kind of a deep cut, but I hate it with every ounce of my body and soul. It's a
Okay.
movie called Hibby Rock from 2014. And it's about a no-talent rock band, and they meet a beautiful idol who wants them to write her next song. This features the most obnoxious and insufferable character I've ever seen in a Japanese movie, and he's our main character.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's the basis of my including this as number 1. Like there's a let me see here. Oh, hysterical fits of screaming constantly throughout the film. Very juvenile. Uh,
So it sounds like Grand Blue.
oh yeah.
It's
It's just an
probably a similar thing to that, by the sounds of
it's
it.
like an outlandish cartoonish performance. Now Fumi Nakaido is in this as
Mhm.
well. And she's the only good thing about the movie, but they give her like nothing really to do. The music is ear-grating garbage, and there's a lot of it. The ending is one of the most pathetic attempts at melodrama of the 2010s. Um, yeah, it's just all the humor is like low-grade slapstick too. I watched this movie like one time, and it made me so angry watching it that I had to include it as number 1 because I can't imagine being angry at anything more than this for a manga adaptation.
Wow. I've not heard of this one, I'll be honest.
Same here. I haven't, but it's directed by Yu. I think I've seen some of his work. Yu. Maybe I have not. Maybe I have not. Never mind. His name just sounded so familiar for a second. Never mind. Forget what I'm saying.
Well, for those of you watching, you probably predicted what my number 1 is. And my number 1 is 3 movies, and that's the Fullmetal Alchemist
I want to hear
trilogy.
about these sequels, Ray. I want to hear what is
Yes,
he going to say about the sequels?
I know. Yeah.
They're as good as the first one, which means they're bad. Uh, Now the author of the manga, um, I've not read Fullmetal Alchemist. I've watched Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, which that was recommended by a friend of mine because I was like, oh, I want to get. I've heard so much about this. Which one do I watch? Do I watch the original or do I watch like the reboot? And he's like hardcore fan, so he's like, watch the reboot because that expands the lore and things like
Hmm.
that. Having said that, the same author, she wrote a slice of life manga called Silver Spoon.
Mm.
It's very different to this. And Silver
That was
Spoon
also adapted, right?
was also adapted, and it was good. Because Silver Spoon is exactly what you think it is. It's a guy who, rich guy, very privileged. He can't get into normal university because his grades are shit. So he gets sent to an agriculture college, and it's all about learning about uh, where your food comes from.
Mm.
It's it's when you find out this was written by both of these things were written by the same woman, you're like, okay, fair enough. Um, so I'm more familiar with the Silver Spoon stuff than I am Full Metal Alchemist, is what I'm trying to get at. Uh, but yeah, these movies, even if you've not watched the anime, if you just go into these films as movies, they are terrible. Uh, I think what they were trying to do is they were trying to emulate the Kenshin films.
Mm,
Like
mm.
they saw the success of those and they went, what's another major franchise that we can adapt and do what they did, but they didn't understand what made those films so good. Is that the director behind them actually understood the source material and cared, and they actually put the effort in. Where these are rushed, uh, very poorly written, very poorly acted. The CG's terrible. Again, they look like cosplayers, and I hate to be that guy, but the white face. Uh, it's there's only so much you can take with like, all right, you're giving him blue eye contacts, you, you, the blonde wig, he's got an Italian name, but he's Japanese. Okay, fine, I can do this, but then it just, I don't know, everything about it just made me angry. So why does this exist? And I'm not even a huge fan. So I can imagine if you're a lifelong fan of this thing
Oh man.
and you get a live action trilogy and this is the shit that it's like they put a bunch of shit on a plate and said, "Here, eat this." Um it's yeah, I can understand why people wouldn't go past the first film, and it's not worth it. Trust me. The second, even yeah, with other actors in it and different stories, they put no more effort into the sequels at all. And the sequels are weird because they've done that thing where it's this two and three are actually one movie. It's just a two-parter.
Mm. Ah,
It's Twilight, Breaking Dawn, part whatever.
Oh,
right,
Um,
right.
they're And again, it doesn't help that I hate this actor's face, the lead actor. I just can't stand his face. I don't know what it is about the guy. Anytime he's popped up in something, I've just had to go, no, I can't do this. But for some reason, out of morbid curiosity or because I hate myself, I watched all three of these. I think I was just wanting some because I do like watching Japanese live action adaptations because there are a lot of good ones. And
mm,
I'm really looking forward to a top 10 list of the best ones because that's going to be harder for me to make.
yeah,
But
Mm.
with this bottom stuff, when it's bad, it's Full Metal Alchemist or it's Devilman. Like, it's so. I, I don't know. I don't know what the excuse was for Full Metal Alchemist because I know I can forgive the Attack on Titan ones as bad as they are. Like the first one's fine, like we said.
yeah,
The second one is terrible, but I can forgive them because the source material wasn't finished. Like they were rushed out. Where Full Metal Alchemist, it was done. They could
Mhm.
have taken their time. They could have planned them. It's almost like the Star Wars sequel trilogy, where it's like they don't have a plan. It's just like, let's just make these, get them out, and we're going to piss off fans and yeah, lose our audience. But I've put all three in as number one because I think they're equally as bad, and I didn't just want to pick one.
sure.
I pray to God we don't get any more. But who knows? They went straight to Netflix, so I don't. Internationally, I'm assuming they played in theaters in Japan, but
I
uh,
think they did, but it was very short because it popped up on Netflix not too long after,
yeah. So they
from what I
must
can
have.
recall. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like a Kenshin thing where they made those the finale and begins or whatever it was called, and they were just they were Warner Brothers films. They
Hmm.
weren't
Mm.
produced by Netflix. They just ended up there for distribution. Where I get the feeling Full Metal Alchemist is like a 100% Netflix thing. Um, so yeah, how they can do that and then do One Piece like not long after and actually, from what I've heard, get that right. I don't know. It anyway. I've said all I want to say about Fullmetal Alchemist.
All right, I think we're down to
Unless,
Right.
raise number
unless you have,
one.
yeah, up
Number
to you, Ray.
one,
Let's.
but process of
I think
elimination, you can
yeah,
probably
we know
guess
what it is.
it's Devilman. It's Devilman, and ah, oh my Lord, there's like a lot to talk about this movie about where it went wrong. Like, first of all, the main two guys, they're twins, both, and they have equally bad acting talent. Like, I don't know if they've. I think they were probably like goons in like some of the Crows movies afterwards, if I'm not mistaken.
Well,
But
really?
yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I believe in one of those like high school gangster, like like Dynasty Warriors style movies, whether it be Crows or can't think of it something another time. Anyways,
I was not sure.
um, yeah, both they were twin brothers, both with the same level of acting talent, same level of charisma, same level of flat energy, and not only that, well, just there was no. I don't think there was anyone in the cast that could save this movie. The CG was horrid. Uh, did they even do any practical effects? I can't even
Not
remember if they did any
not
practical
from
effects.
memory. I don't think there's anything.
Yeah,
It's
the
all early 2000 CG.
yeah, and I could forgive a bad you know me, I love my superhero stories. This one was just there was too much to not be able to forgive it with. Even the dialogue, I remember there's one particular scene that still stays with me to this day. What dialogue, this line of dialogue. This is after the main guy gets his Devilman powers, and he's traveling with his girlfriend on his bike. For some reason, this takes place in the Japan where high school kids can ride like full on motorcycles. That was one of the weirdest things I've seen. But anyway, that consistency aside, they pull up to not even the school parking lot, but into the school like track and field ground. I think it's somewhere outside. I was like, what's this setting? And then he just asks her, "Hey, what would you do? What would you do if I told you I'm not human anymore?" And then she was like, and then she goes like, "Huh? What was that?" And then he's like, "Nah, forget it. Forget what I said." And that end the conversation. She just goes, "Okay, I'll talk to you later. See you." It's like, huh? You know, it's like that's just one. This is like one of many just ridiculously bad dialogue scenes. But man, they're right. Oh my god. Story made no sense. Action was pretty bad. Villain it's like and I think it didn't the action scenes like weren't helped by the fact that the CG that was CG was really bad, you know. And yeah, Devil Man. There's a lot to
I
say
think
about that,
I,
but
I think I read somewhere that this was voted like the worst live action adaptation, like in Japan by Japanese people.
Good
I mean,
choice.
I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is like universally hated in Japan. Um,
yeah, and like the author, like, he's the manga, same author of Cutie Honey, so that's
Hmm.
why you get like the kind of adult
yeah,
targeted content, right? So I mean, this it's a different level of energy, of course, but and I like the source material because of the fact that it's written by Go Nagai. Love Cutie Honey, love the old Devilman stories, but yeah, this is just I don't know. It felt like it just felt like a straight to DVD movie. I don't even know if I got a theatrical release because I watched it on DVD. But
mm.
yeah.
It's one of those
Wow.
things. It gets your noggin jogging. Like, how did this get funding? Who paid for this? Why does this exist?
How
It's
did it get
certainly not enough.
approved after the producers saw it? It's like
Well, they've got to get some of their money back, I guess. So
that's
Who
true.
was looking at the dailies and was like, yeah, this looks good?
I don't think anyone was looking at the dailies for that.
I know, right? Excellent performance, guys. To
Yeah,
the lead
yeah,
actress.
yeah.
That's been great.
So in summary of this discussion, I would say that, if people out there wanted a top three of worst adaptations, probably we would say like Fullmetal Alchemist,
Mm.
Devilman, and probably Terra Formars.
Terra Formars, yeah.
Yeah,
Would
those are
probably
the
be
common factors.
you could juggle a few more in there, but that's a good solid, I think, if we came to kind of a preliminary conclusion based on the discussion. It's a solid top three, I think,
Yeah.
or bottom three. Yeah. So do you guys have any other thoughts, or wrap it up?
I'm happy to wrap it up because it's getting very late and I
Mm-hmm.
need to go to bed. But yeah, my overall thoughts are there's a lot of average, okay adaptations out there,
Mm-hmm.
and from Japan, and there's a lot of okay adaptations from Hollywood or wherever else. Um, but there's also some very, 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 very bad films from everywhere. Um, but there's also some good stuff, and I'm looking forward to talking about the good stuff because that's going to be much harder. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a lot
Much
of
harder.
films
Yeah.
based on manga that a lot of people don't realize they're based on a manga or an anime. Like for example, Old Boy. I know
Yeah.
people for years that had no idea that was based on a Japanese manga. They just assumed, um, uh, uh, fuck, what's the director's name?
Park Chan-wook.
Park Chan-wook. Thank you. Sorry, I was about to say Lee Byung-hyun, and I'm like, no. Why would I say the actor name who's not even in that film? Choi Min-sik um,
Yeah.
is the actor. Sorry, I'm getting very tired, and I haven't
No, yeah.
spoken about Korean films in a long time. Um, but yeah, a lot of people credit um, Park Chan-wook for Old Boy when it is technically it is based on a manga, but he just made a better version of it. But I'm looking forward to talking
Mhm.
about good movies. Good movies are harder to talk about than bad movies, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
Uh, but
What
yes,
about you, Ray? Any
some fucking stinkers.
any final thoughts before we sign off?
One of the things that we probably haven't touched, just because I think it's beyond it's not within the realm of movies we would go out of our way to watch, is that much more probably at the same level of the movies that we just listed. There are a lot of manga adaptations of girl manga, that are equally as bad as some of these movies, a lot of these movies on these lists. But and I've seen a lot of them, but I just happen to just gravitate towards the ones I listed for the sake of this video. But they're also, I'm pretty sure. The thing is, they just pump them out, just because there's always going to be a market for watching adaptations of girl manga stories, and I think that deserves another conversation if we're willing to do that conversation. But at the same time, I'm not the target audience for that, so I could be talking out of place. But yeah, as far as quality is concerned, when it comes to anime adaptation, it's really hard because, especially when you go to like the long running shows, it's hard to,
Yeah.
if you want to do it in one movie, you want to do it in three. How much lore do you want to cram into it? Where do you want to end?
Yeah.
How close do you want them to look like to the source material? Do you want them to go full Metal Alchemist? I mean, it worked in One Piece, you know, the cosplay. They made it work. I think it was probably because they used like a lot of really good makeup artists on set. Uh, but then Full Metal Alchemist just looked kind of silly. Yeah, and also which director are you gonna hire for it? How much budget are you gonna put by it? There's a lot of factors, and I think there was I don't know. I don't want to give like a hard percentage of like good movies to bad movies to come out of these, but there are a lot of good adaptations of anime. But as we've discussed, yeah, there are much more worse, to like mid to bad on anime manga adaptations too. So
And when they're
yeah,
bad, they're really bad.
yeah.
All
Hey, so
right.
you, yeah. That's all. That's all.
So that's our bottom 10 worst live action adaptations. I think the lists were pretty solid. We had some crossover on the worst, but we had some nice variety in terms of the types of
Mm.
movies too. So, and we'll gonna do another video on our favorites coming up, so everybody watch. Could look forward to that. And yeah, all the titles I'll list in the comment section below or the description box, so everybody can experience these movies with us if they haven't already. All right, well, thanks, Corrie and Ray. Thanks for joining me. And
Welcome. Thanks for
Thanks
having
for
us
having us.
anytime.
Yeah.
Yes, and as always, folks, I'll see you next time.